screen. See the numbers on Harang for the season. He won his last start against the Rockies, went 7 innings, gave up only 3 hits, struck out 7, walked 1. That broke a string of 7 starts when he had 6 losses and a no decision.
Side, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Garrett has played more right field than any of the 3 outfield spots in the big leagues, but he can play all 3 pretty well. Ground ball to Casey at first. He'll flip it to Harang for the first out. Of course, Garrett coming off right knee surgery and wearing a knee brace, as you see, on that right knee. So that's part of the reason why Dusty Baker wants him to be in a comfortable spot out in right. But we've talked about Jeremy Burnitz, a guy who can play center. In fact, made a career high 64 starts in center last year for the Rockies. This is not something that we'll see a lot. But at least tonight, Burnitz getting the start in center. Now a guy with a 12-game hitting streak, Todd Walker, 5 for 11 in the series.
Getting back to Garrett just for a moment, he started in center field for all 3 years at Stanford, so he can play all 3 of them. He's comfortable at all 3 of them, but I think until that knee gets back to 100%, you'll probably see him more on the corners.
Hitters count for Todd Walker. Last 9 games, the Cubs as a team hitting .344 with a .407 on base percentage, and they have slugged .592. I also think it's interesting to note when we talk about the value of team speed, beating out double play balls, taking that extra base on a single to center or to right. But the last 9 games, the Cubs have just 1 stolen base. So, I mean, if you're slugging the way the Cubs have, you don't need stolen bases per se. Just get guys on base, knock them in with doubles and home runs.
Well, we talk about hitters and pitchers making adjustments all the time during the course of a season, during the course of a game, and the manager will have to do the same thing. When your team is swinging the bats well, you don't want to run into any outs.
Ryan Friel will throw to Casey. A couple of ground ball outs for Aaron Harang.
One of Aaron Harang's main strengths is his ability to throw strike one. He's among the National League leaders this year. Was better than average last year in the National League at throwing that first pitch strike. His stuff is not overpowering, very average, and if he's able to get ahead in the count, it makes him much more effective.
Now the National League leader in batting average, home runs, tied for first in RBIs. Big night last night, 3 for 5.
He's a 4-pitch guy, is Aaron Harang. Fastball, slider, curveball, changeup. He needs to stay down in the zone to be effective, and he will tend to nibble after he gets strike one on a hitter. Sure how much of a compliment that is. Let's get a look at Derek Lee's numbers against the Reds this year. Just ridiculous. When you call Aaron Harang the most consistent Red starter, that's kind of a backhanded compliment. On most staffs, this guy would probably be a number 3 or a number 4 starter, but seven home runs against the Reds in 7 games. I'm not sure, but I think that averages about 1 a game.
Yeah. He and Ramirez with 12 home runs and 29 RBIs combined against the Reds. Boy, you're good at those numbers.
Sometimes.
Now Michael Barrett hitting .409 against the Reds this year. Burnitz at .320. Jody Garrett at .389. A lot of at-bats in interleague play with the Indians. Lee goes the other way. That is deep, but it will be run down by Jacob Cruz, getting the start in right tonight. So the Cubs go down in order. Kerry Wood will face Friel, Lopez, and Casey. Cubs went down 1-2-3 in the top of the first, and here's how the Reds will line up offensively tonight. As Bob mentioned, Ryan Friel activated off the disabled list today, and he's going to lead it off. Felipe Lopez bats second. Casey, Griffey, Randa, and Dunn in the middle. Jacob Cruz with his first start in this series. Javier Valentin also with his first start, and Aaron Harang, the pitcher, just 1 for 40 this year.
Take a look at the Cubs defensively, brought to you by Rico. Hollinsworth in left, Burton Nitz with his first start in center field, Jody Garrett over in right, Ramirez, Perez, Walker Lee, the usual infield, Michael Barrett behind the plate tonight for Kerry Wood. See the numbers on the season for Kerry Wood, coming off a strong outing against the Pirates, went 6 innings, gave up only 2 base hits and 1 run. Well, the only run he gave up was a home run to Jose Castillo, the second baseman for the Pirates, and came out of that game after 6 innings with a comfortable lead through only 75 pitches.
Friel had been on the DL since June 25th with inflammation at the base of the second toe of his left foot, but he's back atop the lineup, and he has 21 stolen bases, 7th in the National League, so he brings that speed element back to the Reds. Now, the Reds lost a couple of guys off their roster. Outfielder Kenny Kelly was claimed off waivers by the Washington Nationals. Infielder Anderson Machado claimed by the Colorado Rockies. So 2 guys are with other organizations who were on the active roster last night. Field thrown out by Todd Walker. It'll bring up Felipe Lopez, leading all National League shortstops in average, home runs, and RBIs. And a much better hitter from the left side. About 100 points better from the left side than the right side. 332 as a lefty, 236 as a righty. Here comes Wood on the 1-0, and the breaking ball missed. 5th start off the DL for Kerry Wood. And again, the command of the strike zone has been right on the last 2 starts. Just 1 walk for his last 2 outings.
You know, Kerry Wood doesn't like to talk about his mechanics. He's obviously made some changes since going down to the minor leagues on his rehab assignment, but one thing you'll notice is that front foot, the left foot, how deliberately he points that toward his target and consistently lands in the same hole every time. I think in the past he had a tendency at times to really swing that left foot forward from the middle of his delivery on, and didn't consistently land in the same spot, and consequently put a lot of pressure on that throwing arm because he wasn't in a good position consistently. Now he's very deliberate with that front leg, points that toe right at his catcher, lands in the same spot every time. And that would lend itself to being in the strike zone, or at least hitting your spots a lot more consistently.
Another 3-2 pitch and another foul. Good battle between Wood and Lopez.
Take a look at that left foot, the front foot, as he picks it up here and then very deliberately points it right toward the catcher and landing in that same spot in that hole. I mean, you can land on one side or the other of that hole, but
it is deep to right, and Garrett out of room as he watches it land in the seats. Felipe Lopez with his 15th home run gave Wood a very good battle. Kerry allowed 2 home runs here against the Reds, both to Adam Dunn on April 18th. Got a no decision that night, gave up 5 runs in 6 innings. 1-0 Reds.
Lopez is a guy that's really come on the last couple of seasons. He was a #1 draft pick by the Blue Jays back in '98, and everybody predicted greatness for Felipe Lopez. Probably expected a little bit too much from him too soon up in Toronto. He was rushed to the major leagues after only parts of 3 seasons in the minors, but has really come into his own here in Cincinnati.
Over his career, Kerry Wood 12-3 in 19 starts against the Reds with a .297 earned run average. Most wins he has against any team. In fact, it's the only team he has beaten more than 6 times. Second start this year, and again, a no decision. His last time against the Reds. It's fouled by Sean Casey, the first baseman.
And he also leads all pitchers all time in most strikeouts per 9 innings pitched against the Reds, averaging 11.38 punch-outs per 9 innings. Pretty good names on the rest of the list: Nolan Ryan, Curt Schilling, Tom Seaver, J.R. Richards, but Kerry Wood with almost 2 strikeouts per 9 innings more than any of those guys against the Reds.
Hard on the ground, backhanded by Walker. Will throw to Lee. So 2 outs in the inning. You talk about home runs. The Reds started this series first in the National League in home runs. The Cubs started tonight first in the league in home runs. They hit 7 in the first 2 games, but with that Lopez blast, it's now a tie. Each team with 122 home runs. Vern Rule, the Reds pitching coach, looking on as Griffey fouls it back. 4 strike 1. Griffey sitting on 521 career home runs, tied for 14th with Willie McCovey and Ted Williams. Comes a 1-1. That one missed badly on a fastball. 2 balls and a strike on Griffey.
You saw that ball just completely got away from Kerry Wood right there. Talking to Mark Pryor about his outing last night, he was having a lot of problems because he was sweating so profusely. The sweat was running down his right arm into his hand. He couldn't consistently get a good grip on his curveball. He had a couple pitches that got away from him, very much like that one got away from Kerry Wood. Three and 1. 2 outs here in the first. Lopez with a home run, putting the Reds on top. 3 and 2. The Braves beat the Giants in San Francisco 4-1. John Smoltz with his 11th win. So the Cubs right now 4.5 out in the wild card. 3rd place in the wild card, 2nd in the Central, 12 back of the Cardinals. So you see the updated standings. Griffey with a check swing. He did not go and draws the walk. Sam Holbrook down at 3rd. Randy Marsh, the crew chief, is calling balls and strikes tonight. And we should point out, not to pick on Randy Marsh, but just because it is a fact, and players will tell you this around the league, he will call strike 1, he will call strike 2, he will rarely call strike 3. Should see a lot of full counts in the ball game tonight. That's usually the MO when Randy Marsh is behind the plate. Not that he won't call strike 3, he just won't call the borderline pitches in favor of the pitcher. Most respected umpires in either league, since they all work together now, and the players in the American League have had a chance to see Randy Marsh as well, and everybody loves to work the plate in front of Randy Marsh.
Randa just 2 for his last 21, and Griffey with a pretty short lead. You're not going to see Ken Griffey Had to steal too many bases after all the hamstring problems. He used to be a guy who would steal a lot of bases for a power hitter. He would steal 20 no problem. Fielder's choice for Randa is Griffey forced at second. Lopez with the one-out home run, and the Reds lead 1-0. Receive in-game alerts, scores, breaking news, and more instantly on your mobile phone for only $3.99 per month. Simply text the word Cubs to 65246 or MLB Go from your mobile phone. Cubs trail 1-0 as the center fielder Jeremy Brunitz looks at ball one. The cleanup hitter playing center field. Again, 64 starts last year in center with the Rockies. He has made 140 career starts as a center fielder. Here's the pitch from Harang, and it's outside. 2 balls, no strikes. He's comfortable out there in center. In fact, he says he enjoys playing the position. This is not going to be an everyday thing. But he's out there tonight, and of course, Jody Garrett, making his first start as a Cub, is in right. Griffey drifting back. Now backpedaling makes a catch on the warning track.
A little different feel to the ballpark tonight. The ball doesn't seem to be jumping quite as well as it did in the first 2 games of this series. Although that ball did carry a long way to straightaway center field. Just cruising back on that ball, just a natural fluid actions that he has out there, ends up backpedaling the last several steps before catching that ball right in front of the center field wall.
Brings up Ramos Ramirez, 3 for 4 last night with 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, also had a double. Just to follow up on Jeremy Brunitz in center, says as a center fielder, he says if I can get to a fly ball, I'm going to go get it. As a right fielder, you go get it until the center fielder calls you off. He's the captain out there in the middle of the outfield.
Well, speaking of the captain, this has been the captain of the offense the last couple days. Ramos Ramirez going opposite field on a fastball up and out over the plate, and then just turned the world around on that one. 434 feet.
Harang with a 1-1 and fouled straight back. Harang with a no decision at Wrigley on April 27th. So the second start this year against the Cubs. 1-0 in 4 career starts with a 5.09 earned run average. Keep this in mind: of the 18 innings in the series, the first 2 games, the Red starters have worked just 7 2/3. So Jerry Narron has used his bullpen over 10 innings. And the home plate umpire raised his arms as that ball was tapped toward first, and I believe, I don't know what the call is. I believe he called it foul. I don't know if he's calling catcher's interference or what, but he immediately raised his arms. Randy Marsh, he's going to check with the third base umpire. He's looking at the mound now. What? Is it possibly called time before the pitch?
He was looking at the mound as if he was insinuating that Harang maybe wasn't on the rubber when he delivered the pitch. Harang has made some minor adjustments in his delivery. He used to throw from the far third base side. He moved over to the first base side and now has kind of settled somewhere in the middle. He's trying to find a comfort zone out there. It's now a 2-2 count. A ball was called. Try to figure out why. It wouldn't be catcher's interference because Ramirez would have been awarded first base. But you can see Marsh clearly raised his hands in the air, came out from behind home plate.
So it is 2-2. Did he go to his mouth possibly? He didn't indicate that.
Well, usually that would be called earlier in the delivery.
Huh.
Not really sure what the call was there. We'll see if we can get a clarification between innings here.
Line in the 3-2, and Ramirez strikes out swinging. Well, I'll make another plug for a little communication, maybe a cell phone between the home plate umpire and the press box.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what I mean?
Looked at one replay of it, didn't really see anything out of the ordinary from Harang. I mean, you can clearly see Harang is working from the far first base side of the rubber. He used to work the third base side. He moved to the first base side. At one point this season, he was back in the middle, and now he's back over on the first base side of the rubber. I'm not sure if maybe he broke contact with the pitching slab out there before delivering the ball, and that's why Randy Marsh called a ball, but I don't know what else he could have done short of that.
2-0 on Todd Hollandsworth, looking for his first hit in the series. Harang's a pretty big dude, 6'7", 270.
Got to believe the Bengals have been keeping a close eye on Harang and Adam Dunn this year. If they struggle with this baseball stuff, you take them across the street to Paul Brown Stadium and put them in the orange and black of the Bengals. Take Willie Mopena with him.
Here he comes on a 2-1 to Hollandsworth. Short center, Griffey on the run. 6 up, 6 down for Aaron Harang. Midway in the second, 1-0. Get complete sports coverage every night on Jim Beam Sports Night. Coming up tonight after Cubs postgame live, Tigers, White Sox, and Cubs, Reds highlights. Join Gail and Carey for Jim Beam Sports Night tonight after Cubs postgame live only on Comcast Sportsnet. The White Sox fell short today, 8-6 on the south side. Nate Robertson over Freddie Garcia in that one. Here it's 1-0 Reds. Adam Dunn 2 for 2 with 2 home runs against Kerry Wood this year. Those home runs coming on April 18th. The Geico Direct quote on facing Kerry Wood: usually when you face him, you get one good pitch to hit. It might be the first one or the last one, so you've got to be ready for it. Launched to right, and his 3rd home run against Kerry Wood this year, his 5th career homer against Wood. So 3 at-bats against Wood, and all have left the ballpark.
Well, it's definitely been outhouse or castle for Adam Dunn against Kerry Wood. That's his 9th hit in 30 at-bats, 5 of those home runs, but he's also struck out 11 times.
On April 18th, he homered, in fact, leading off an inning. He led off the 2nd and the 4th with home runs. He walked in the 6th and scored a run. So Wood has been unable to retire. He has not yet retired Adam Dunn all year. Shows binoculars and caused some damage in the bounce. Well, 2 home runs allowed. The good news is both solo home runs, so it's only 2-0. That's how you have to look at it. Cruz went around.
Over the past week, the Cubs have not fallen behind in a ball game very often, but when they have, they've usually been able to bounce back and get themselves back into a position to either tie the game or take a lead.
Two and 2 on Jacob Cruz. We mentioned it last night. He was once involved in a trade, but also involved Jody Garrett. He was acquired by the Rockies from Cleveland in exchange for outfielder Jody Garrett, catcher Josh Bard on June 2nd, 2001. 3-2 pitch, and he struck him out. Good breaking ball from Kerry Wood.
Good tight late breaking curveball here from Kerry Wood. We've seen him throw more sliders than curveballs since coming back from his rehab assignment. It really just depends on which pitch he has a better feel for on a given night, but that time perfectly located right on the outside corner.
Now Javier Valentin, who did not see action in the first 2 games of this series. The last time he did see action, he had a career performance in his first career grand slam on Sunday against the Rockies. Also hit a 3-run homer. Grand slam was as a lefty. A 3-run shot as a right-hander. So a 7 RBI afternoon. First Red since Pete Rose on August 2nd, 1967. He had a home run from both sides of the plate in 1 game. He had 2 curtain calls. His parents were in town. So great timing for Valentin. A pretty awesome afternoon, and promptly singles in his first at bat here tonight.
Two home runs, 7 RBIs, and his reward for that was he got to sit on the bench the next 2 nights while Jason LaRue went behind the plate to catch. Yeah, what a great moment for the youngster. Got to be exciting, especially when mom and dad are here to watch.
He donated the bat he used to hit those home runs to the Reds Hall of Fame. Bunted by Harang, and it snakes foul. He also noted that his older brother Jose has never homered from both sides of the plate. He's had multiple homer games. In fact, Jose Valentin once had a 3-homer performance, but he has never hit one on each side of the plate. Check down at first, and no bunt attempt. So it's 1-1.
Harang has had his troubles offensively this year, to say the least. 1 for 40 on the season. Only 1 sacrifice bunt.
Wood bobbles it, and he will not get it out. Just could not find the handle. They wanted to go to second. Once the ball popped out, he didn't have a play at first. Sacrifice for Harang and an error on Wood.
Kerry probably trying to hurry a little bit too much. You've got the catcher running from first to second. The ball was bunted hard, pretty much right back to him. He's got a lot more time than he realizes here. I think he was probably thinking double play rather than just thinking about getting the lead out at second base. Never did have a handle on that ball, just squirted out of the glove. And you would anticipate another bunt attempt here from Ryan Friel. See how the Cubs choose to play this one.
Fielders are looking around. Now the scoreboard has 2 outs, but now they changed it. It's actually just 1 out, and that's what everybody on the infield was reminding one another of. Cubs carry on a 1-0, fouled away to the right. Wood looking to win his 3rd consecutive start. Would be the first time he's won 3 consecutive starts since September 17th of 03 through April 11th of 04, when he won 4 straight. baseball. The Cubs have won 3 in a row. And right now, 3 games over 500. Big swing and a miss, and Friel gone. Wood with a second strikeout this inning.
Got him to chase a high fastball. That ball's up above the letters, mid-90s. Friel had 5 games on his rehab assignment down in AAA. Not really a lot of at-bats. Didn't do much but laugh about that one.
Lopez with a home run to right in the first inning. Off the outside corner. Coming into the game tonight, Lopez on a pace for 24 home runs, 85 RBIs. Team record for RBIs among shortstops, Barry Larkin 89 in 1996. Larkin hit 33 home runs that year. That's also a team record for shortstops. And guess who holds the club record for batting average among shortstops? Barry Larkin. His MVP season, he had 319 in 1995.
Jim Bowden has his way in Washington. Barry Larkin will have an opportunity to add to his career numbers. Trying to coax Barry Larkin out of retirement.
Swing and a miss. Lopez strikes out. The Reds leave 2. They get a run on the Dunn leadoff homer, his 25th of the year. 3 coming against Kerry Wood. It's 2-0. Some of your favorite Cubs, including Ernie Banks, Michael Barrett, Billy Williams, and more, are headed to the Walt Disney World Resort December 1st through the 5th during the happiest celebration on Earth. The biggest celebration in Disney history features new attractions from Disney destinations around the globe. You'll enjoy all the new magic at Disney World, plus private parties and events exclusive to Cubs fans and much more, brought to you by Southwest Airlines and your local Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana Chevy dealers. Contact AAA Travel at 1-866-4AAA-CUBS to join us. A couple of home runs for the Reds off Kerry Wood. The Cubs are down 2. Bottom 3 in the order here in the 3rd inning against Aaron Harang. Strike 1. You mentioned Aaron Harang has been the most effective starter for the Reds. Consider Paul Wilson, their opening day starter, now out for the year. He made just 9 starts. Also with the right shoulder surgery. 2 bouncer to Friel. No problem for him as he'll get it to Casey. Wilson's numbers, he was 1-5 with a 7.77 ERA, and you have to figure the shoulder had at least something, if not a lot, to do with those problems. So you have not gotten on the river, right?
No.
During this series?
I've walked over it several times on the bridges that go over into Covington and Newport, Kentucky. I haven't been in the river, no. I
figure the water's pretty warm with the nice temperatures here. 79 degrees here at game time tonight. A little cooler than the last couple of nights, but again, we had some showers in the late afternoon. I understand some rain back home finally, and also good that it happened with the Cubs on the road.
Yep. You put the whammy on them back home. I thought we were going to get rained out there.
Of course, what happened won't dispel any myths about, you know, superstitions and the like. Just seen as an exception, and don't do it again, Len.
So, you know, that's like one of those things, and we hear it all the time in the press box when, you know, you have a relatively quick-moving game going. Both pitchers are throwing strikes, and the umpire's calling a big strike zone, and the game's moving along. And somebody in the press box will say, "Boy, this game's really flying by." And you can rest assured it's going to take at least 3 hours to finish that ball game from that point. Something will happen to slow the ball game down when you say that.
Of course, you're not referring to tonight, just in general terms.
Just in general.
Busily working in the press box, the scribes. Brett Mitchell, Jeff Borba, Bruce Miles. Kiley's in there somewhere. In the hole and through a seeing-eye single for Michael Barrett, who has reached now 20 of his last 30 plate appearances. 7-game hitting streak.
Couple of borderline breaking balls that Harang did not get the calls on, and Michael Barrett finally picks on one, slaps it through the left side of the infield. Lopez just getting a glove on it. Cubs finally have a base runner here in the 3rd inning.
Well, the starter's 6-game hitting streak snapped last night as Mark Pryor went 0 for 2 with a walk. So Kerry Wood will try to start another hitting streak. He has 2 hits on the year in 18 tries. Both hits doubles. He had the go-ahead 2-run double in the 2nd inning Friday against the Pirates. So his first 2 RBIs came in his last start. Bunted toward first. Casey is just going to tag Kerry Wood. So a runner at second with 2 outs for Jody Garrett.
With a right-handed fielding first baseman, you can bunt that ball a little harder to the right side and make sure you get it down, push it that way. Sean Casey would have had to wheel his body all the way around to make the throw to try to get the lead runner. With a left-handed fielding first baseman, you have to be a little more careful about deadening that ball on the right side.
I was talking with Jerry Hairston before the game. He never did play against Jody Garrett in high school, but he said we definitely knew about each other. He said he went and watched Garrett actually play once in a high school game. Hairston was a shortstop at Naperville North. Garrett, a center fielder at Willowbrook in 1995. He hit .466, was the Chicago Sun-Times Player of the Year. He had Hairston, Garrett, and Mark Mulder, all big-time local stars. Mulder went to Thornwood, and they're all now not only in the major leagues, but former American leaguers, all in the same division. How about that? And 2 guys are now on the same team, the hometown team.
We talked about Garrett's approach at the plate in the ballgame last night. He had 1 pinch hit appearance, very still, but he just drops his hands down into a good hitting slot as the pitch is delivered.
Popped up left side of the infield for Lopez. That is out number 3. Cubs get their first hit of the night, but no runs. Bottom 3 coming up, 2-0 Reds.
Net.
Man, great to have with us Cubs general manager Jim Hendry. Of course, he's not very busy these days. Not, but we appreciate taking a couple of minutes to chat with us, Jim, with everything going on. And
good to be with you, Lynn.
Right now, the Cubs trail 2-0 as the Reds bat in the 3rd inning. But let's go through the process of the trade you made with the Cleveland Indians.
Well, it really happened as a lot of times trades happen. It really wasn't a planned thing. We were trying to, the scouts and myself, trying to go through, both leagues, maybe looking for a little different approach in the outfield, and Jody was on a list to inquire about, and I think the first time I spoke to Mark Shapiro about it was last Sunday morning. So Mark had expressed a lot of interest in Jason in the past, even as far back as the fall league when Jason was the MVP out there, and I think we both felt it was a good trade for both clubs. Jason's a quality guy, and I think might be better served in the American League where he can split time between the corner outfield spots and some little DH work. And they were getting a little heavy left-handed, and he thought for the future that he'd fit in good with some of his other better hitters that are all left-handed.
Bob and I were talking the other night about how it was a baseball trade, one guy for one guy.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was
you don't get to do that often. There was no contractual issues. There wasn't a big disparity in the dollars. It was just a good old-fashioned one for one, and I think we both agreed that not only will it help us now, but both guys certainly can help the clubs that they went to for the future.
2-0 the count on Ken Griffey. 1 out. Pitch from Kerry Wood, swung on and missed. Want to ask you about Corey Patterson and his progress at AAA, and I'm sure you keep an eye on what he's doing every day.
Yeah, well, O'Neary's Fleet, our farm director, has been in there with him every day, and was with him in Mason when he got there. And Dave Keller, our minor league hitting coordinator, has been with him.
That one is going to get out in a big-time hurry. So Ken Griffey breaks the tie with Willie McCovey and Ted Williams. That's his 522nd career home run.
Wasn't much doubt about that one.
And just talking with some of the Reds people, he has his legs back. He's healthy now. You're seeing the old Griffey.
Well, he's been a great player for a long time, and unfortunately the last 2 or 3 years he's been really banged up, but talented guy, and very dangerous, obviously. But anyhow, getting back to Corey, he's working real hard, got a great attitude. He's making some adjustments with Dave Keller and his approach, and some changes that obviously I leave that up to the hitting experts, but had a lot of good at-bats the last 2 or 3 days in Iowa, and O'Neary felt that he was really coming along well, and he was feeling good about himself, which is very important.
Now, Larry Rothschild is out, along with Cubs assistant trainer Ed Halber. Kerry says he's okay. Not sure what they were asking about in particular. So it's 3-0, 3 solo home runs by the Reds. Lopez, Dunn, and now Griffey. So it'll bring up Joe Randa. Scott Williamson pitching tonight for Iowa, correct? His first game for the AAA Cubs. That one bounced off the foot of Wood and right to Derek Lee. Yeah, Scott's come along very, very well. You know, Dr. Kremchek, the Reds doctor, who also operated on Brian Dempster, did another terrific job with Scott. He's only 9 months post Tommy John surgery. It's his second one, and we've been amazed the last 3 or 4 weeks how fast he's coming. So, you know, he's going to need to get some work in there, and do the back-to-back and hold up for a while. But he's not too far away, we hope, if there's no snags.
Jim, we talked about the trade that you recently made with the Indians being just a straight baseball trade, player for player. I think a lot of fans don't realize how important the contractual issues are, where a guy is in his arbitration or a free agent approaching, how many years he has left on his contract. All those things enter into play as much as anything else nowadays.
Absolutely, Bob. I hardly ever get a chance to even be involved in a trade that's just a 1-for-1 and not worried about the financial issues or the arbitration numbers and things like that. And just when we, 2 years ago when we acquired Aramis Ramirez, a lot of it just had to do with that he was going to make significant dollars the following year in Pittsburgh and then be a free agent. And obviously we're in a situation where we could afford that. The time Pittsburgh needed to reduce their payroll, and we were fortunate enough to get Aramis, and there's no way that trade would have been made if it wasn't for our economic ability to take him on.
Also read a quote from you recently about Matt Burton and how important he was in that very complicated deal you made involving Nomar.
Well, it happened at the end. There was a lot of issues, and I didn't really want to put Brendan Harris in the trade at the time, at the very last minute, and Omar Minaya was pretty insistent about getting Brendan, and then Theo Epstein was kind enough to try to put a second player in the deal toward Nomar, and then we ended up taking Matt Merton, and that was really the only way that I would give up Brendan Harris, and it happened about 5 minutes to 3 at the deadline, and we really at the time didn't realize. We knew Matt was a good player, but we really didn't realize how good he was. We were really fortunate we were able to get him in that deal. Well, obviously I was being very facetious when we brought you on. You're extremely busy as always, but Jim, thanks for taking the time out and chatting with us. Anytime, guys. Get us some runs. Reds 3, Cubs nothing. We'll be back.
Tomorrow, the series concludes in Cincinnati as the Cubs and Reds slug it out in an afternoon showdown, followed by Cubs postgame live. Cubs-Reds tomorrow at 11:30. Get your game on Comcast Sportsnet.
Let's check out our Aflac trivia question for tonight. 36 years ago today, man walked on the moon. Which Cub hit a moon shot? July 20th, 1969. Cubs are down 3-zip, 3 solo home runs, but again, it's a deficit in this park, particularly considering how well the Cubs have played lately. It's manageable to get something going here against Aaron Harang. The 1-strike pitch missing on Walker, 1-1. Appreciate Jim Hendry stopping by. Chopped and played on the short hop by Casey. He'll step on first.
Yeah, a lot of major league scouts in attendance, not only in this series, but in the 4-game series we played against the Pirates at Wrigley Field. And just FYI, we talk all the time about advanced scouts who are out ahead of a team. They're scouting the opponents that a team is going to face in the next week. Now, this is a different story. These are major league scouts. They evaluate the talent on the teams on the field. They try to figure out where the matches are, where guys fit in with their own organization, so that if trade talks do pop up, they've got information on everybody that's on the major league roster. There are probably scouts at the minor league games as well right now, just trying to see where there's a good fit, somebody that has a surplus of something that I need, and if I have a surplus of something that they need. And as some of the other issues that Jim talked about, the contractual issues, teams that are looking to unload salary. There are a lot of talk about buyers and sellers this time of year, and teams are still trying to figure out which category they're in. But there are teams that definitely know they're in the selling mode right now, and this Reds team would figure to be one of them.
To lead, driven to right, and deep. Cruz back on it, makes the catch.
And Derek's hit 2 balls hard that way tonight. It is not getting the same kind of carry that we saw in the first 2 games, although Adam Dunn and Ken Griffey Jr. would argue that.
It's fly to center in the 2nd inning. Swing and a miss.
And we've talked about it repeatedly over the last week or so that the resurgence of the Cubs offense has as much to do with their patience as anything else at the plate. Trying to work those good counts, but against a pitcher like Harang, who's going strike 1 on every hitter, you may have to turn around and be a little more aggressive.
Now, Mike Remlinger was warming up in the Cubs bullpen. See if Kerry Wood comes back out when we come back. Let's get back to our Aflac trivia question for tonight. 36 years ago today, man walked on the moon. Which Cub hit a moon shot? July 20th, 1969. Ron Santo hit a 2-run homer on Billy Champion. Let's hear about that moment from Ron himself.
I hit a home run off of Billy Champion, home run that went on the roof in Connie Mack Stadium at the same time that the man landed on the moon. And I didn't know about it until I got back to the bench, and I sat next to Dick Selma, and Selma was the pitcher of that day, and he hits me. He says, "Do you know the man just landed on the moon at the same time your ball hit the roof?" And I looked at him kind of crazy like, because he was a guy that was like, we called him Moon Man, you know, because he was a little out there. And I couldn't believe it.
So that's Ron Santo. A great moment. A home run he hit on an important date in U.S. history. And boy, I tell you what, Kerry Wood, we don't know why he has left, but we saw Ed Halber and Larry Rothschild out in that last inning, and Obviously something wrong with Kerry Wood, so Mike Remlinger is on here in the 4th inning. Wood threw just 66 pitches tonight. So Remlinger takes over here in the 4th inning. We'll certainly pass along the reason why Wood left when we get it. Remlinger, a former Cincinnati Red, in fact, was their opening day starter in 1998. Rolled up the middle by Jacob Cruz. So the Cubs bullpen will be used quite a bit tonight.
Saw the numbers for Remlinger when he entered the game. It's no secret that he does better against right-handed hitters than left-handed hitters. Righties batting only 180 against Remlinger on the season, while lefties are hitting over 300. And that certainly holds true with this Reds ball club as well. Sean Casey, a left-handed hitter, a 462 lifetime average. Jacob Cruz now 2 for 2 lifetime. Adam Dunn 6 for 7 against Mike Remlinger.
So Valentin turns around and bats right-handed. He singled off Kerry Wood batting left-handed in the 2nd inning. Coincidentally, I asked Mike Remlinger today about what he does to stay loose when he is not throwing a lot. Just one appearance prior to tonight here in the 2nd half. And he said, when I'm not pitching a lot, he said, I have certain things that I do to keep my arm loose. Everybody's different. But as a reliever, you just do what you need to do to stay loose.
Some guys will throw on the side very early in the day, even before batting practice starts.
Fly ball to right field for Garrett.
Other pitchers find it more beneficial to play long toss in the outfield and then throw off flat ground. But every reliever has to kind of experiment around and figure out what works best for him to stay sharp in those times during the season when you don't get a lot of appearances out there on the mound.
No official at bat for Harang. Sack bunt and reached on the error. Scooped up by Barrett. Walker covering first. So Harang came in with 1 sacrifice hit this year. He has 2 tonight. So 2 outs in the inning. A runner at second with a leadoff hitter, Ryan Friel, just off the disabled list. Remlinger's pitch. 1 ball, no strikes. Friel has made starts at 5 different spots. 2nd base, 3rd base, and all 3 outfield spots. And again, Kerry Wood leaving after just 3 innings due to an undisclosed injury. Certainly, you hope it's nothing serious. You obviously hope it's not arm related. We didn't see anything specifically when the pitching coach Larry Rothschild and one of the Cubs trainers Ed Halber headed out in the 3rd inning. And Wood did finish that frame.
With the conditions we've had here in Cincinnati the last 3 days, you would hope for the best possible scenario, maybe a cramp somewhere. Everybody's sweating profusely.
Real walks. Bay Lopez will turn around and bat right-handed. I wonder if a guy, you mentioned the numbers for Mike Remlinger, if a switch hitter would consider batting left-handed against Remlinger.
Well, Lopez has had 3 plate appearances against Remlinger, struck out twice and walked once from the right side of the plate. And I know there are certain pitchers out there. John Franco comes to mind when he was in his heyday as a closer. A lot of switch hitters chose to hit left-handed against him to take the screwball away. That was his best pitch. Other guys who rely on the cut fastball, Mariano Rivera, I know occasionally switch hitters have gone up to the plate right-handed against him so that that cutter was moving away from them rather than into them.
Well, the other thing is, I mentioned earlier that, Lopez as a lefty is at 332, but just 236 right-handed. So I would think he would be an ideal candidate to at least consider batting left-handed. But not the case.
And it's kind of fun to try to figure out why those numbers are skewed so much in the wrong direction. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact from his days pitching in Atlanta, Mike Remlinger became very comfortable pounding the outside corner against right-handers and throwing that changeup off the plate away from right-handers. And against a lefty, those pitches are right in the wheelhouse. Left-handed hitters like that ball down and in, and his breaking ball is his 3rd best pitch. So if he tries to go to that breaking ball, he's trying to rely on a pitch that is not consistent for him. So that's my theory.
Here comes his 2-1 down the right field line, and Garrett on the move over there, and he makes a catch in foul territory to end the inning. The Reds lead 2 in the 4th. On to the 5th. It's 3-0. Starting Saturday, the Bears report to training camp, and Comcast Sportsnet begins a countdown to kickoff. Our news team brings you closer to your team with news, interviews, and more time on the Bears than anyone else. Don't miss the countdown to kickoff beginning this Saturday during Sports Night only on Comcast Sportsnet. We found the Bears fan here in Cincinnati excited about training camp getting underway very soon. 3-0 Reds. 5th inning. Aramis Ramirez struck out swinging. Back in the 2nd inning, Harang with just that 1 strikeout but no walks. He's allowed 1 base runner. The 3rd inning, 1-out single by Michael Barrett. Randa knocks it down. A lot of time, and he gets Ramirez. Nice play by Joe Randa.
Randa, one of the most sure-handed third basemen in the game, has made only 6 errors this year, 2 throwing errors against the Cubs this season. Smothers that ball on his backhand side, pulls Sean Casey into foul territory just a little bit with that throw across the infield, but plenty of time to get Aramis at first base.
Todd Hollingsworth flied to center in the 2nd inning. Busted bat. Bouncer right back to the pitcher, Harang. Have to spend a few minutes to make sure they get all the pieces of what was left of that bat. London Rush is up in the Cubs bullpen. Of course, Kerry Wood also took a ball off his leg or foot in the 3rd inning, but again, I believe that was after they came out to chat with him. He looked like he was fine after that ricochet. Two down here in the 5th.
And of course, at this point, we're not sure what was bothering him initially, but the ball off the foot may have been something that they were afraid would aggravate whatever it was.
What a bunt by Nafi Perez. Half bunt, half swing. He just shot it past Joe Randa.
Well, that's a lost art. There used to be at least 1 player on every team who was very adept at this slap bunt. Show bunt, draw the third baseman in, and then just slap it by him right at the shortstop. Randa does everything he can to try to make the diving stop. Even if he comes up with it, I don't know if he's going to be able to get Nafi at first. But once it gets by Randa, there's no question that's an infield hit. Very clever.
Barrett fouls it off. One strike on Barrett. 10 for his last 20. We mentioned he's reached in 20 of his last 30 plate appearances. That includes 9 walks. He has 21 walks on the season, so almost half of those walks have been over the last week and a half. Ronnie Cedeno on deck in the pitcher spot. Swing and a miss and a good rip. Two on Barrett. And a quick throw to first, and here's the decision. With Cedeno on deck in Remlinger's spot, if Barrett does not reach base, the guess here with Glendon Rush ready is that Rush will come in either way. And I only say that because Mike Remlinger hasn't worked a whole lot lately. They may not want to stretch him to 2 innings. See if the Cubs double switch. If that happens, lazy fly to left, and that'll be the decision as Dunn makes a catch. A lot of decisions to make tonight with the bullpen already working in this one. 3-0. Looks like Remlinger might be heading back out.
Time now for the Pontiac Sports Night Update.
Hi there, Gail Fisher here inside our Sports Night studios. We'll get you back to the Cubs game in just a second. But first, the Bears have inked a deal with the draft pick. And no, it's not Cedric Benson. Today, the Bears signed 5th-round pick Arise Curry to a 5-year deal. The wide receiver caught 61 passes for 868 yards and 2 touchdowns for Clemson last season. The Bears have yet to sign top picks Cedric Benson and Kyle Orton. Now let's send it back to Len and Bob in Cincy.
Gail, thank you. Kerry Wood had to leave after 3 innings. Right now it's 3-0, bottom of the 5th inning. Mike Remlinger is still working for a 2nd inning. We were talking during the break, and you have a good reason why Mike Remlinger would stay in tonight.
Well, Remlinger's a guy that Dusty will rarely ever use on back-to-back days. They like to give him plenty of rest between outings, so once he's in the ball game, you may as well go ahead and extend him, knowing he's not going to be available to pitch tomorrow, possibly not going to be available on Friday. So I mean, within reason, you're not going to run him out there for 60 or 70 pitches, but certainly you'd like to think that he can go a couple of innings right here, and then you pinch hit for that pitcher spot leading off the top of the 6th inning.
And he threw just 14 pitches in the 4th inning. 1-2 on Sean Casey. Reds runs coming at 3 solo home runs. Lopez, Dunn, and Griffey all against Kerry Wood.
Mentioned earlier that Sean Casey batting .462 lifetime. That's 6 for 13 against Remlinger. All 6 base hits, however, singles.
Two and 2 on Casey. Mentioned Remlinger was the opening day starter for the Reds in '98. Made 35 appearances, 28 starts. Another single for Casey against Remlinger. Mike went 8 and 15 that year with a .482 earned run average. That was the last year he was a starter. In '99, he went to Atlanta, won 10 games in relief, made 73 appearances, had a .237 earned run average, and he's been a reliever ever since. Coming into action tonight, the Reds have won the last 9 games in which Ken Griffey Jr. has homered. And he does have a home run tonight, and his team has a 3-0 lead. Since May 25th, he has 15 home runs in 46 games. And hitting well over .330.
Biggest change I see in Ken Griffey Jr. at the plate this time around, as opposed to when we saw him earlier this season, is he's getting that front foot down a lot quicker. He's getting that bat into a hitting zone or into the hitting area a lot quicker. Now, earlier this season, his swing was long and loopy, and just about every pitcher was beating him with fastballs inside on the hands and above the belt.
Remember, he hit second early on in the year. Cleanup spot. Kick in a 2-2 pitch. Straightaway center. Burnitz on the warning track, has just enough room. Deepest part of the park, but it stayed in. So with 1 out, it brings up Joe Randa.
That's a breaking ball we talked about from Mike Remlinger, his 3rd best pitch that he relies on against left-handed hitters. That time Junior just misses going to straightaway center. I'm not sure what Sean Casey's thinking about here. He'd have a hard time scoring if that ball went over the fence. He went back and tagged up and bluffed a couple steps towards second base. Every player on the Cubs defense would have to mishandle the ball for him to make it to second base.
We've talked about Joe Randa being a top trade candidate. There are all kinds of reports that he may be nearing the end of his tenure here as a Red. Edwin Encarnacion is a Reds' top prospect, kind of waiting in the wings at third base right now at AAA. So will the Edwin Encarnacion era begin this year or next year? That's the question.
I think it's more a question, will it begin tomorrow or the next day? I think it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to move Randa. He's a very valuable player, very instinctive player. Been around the game a while, really knows how to play, gets after it hard every day. And with the Reds mired at 38 and 55, I think it's probably about time to start the youth movement. And Encarnacion is a guy that they're very high on. I mean, there were thoughts of bringing up Encarnacion last year before they signed Joe Randa, but Randa allowed them the opportunity to leave him in the minor leagues for a full season to continue his seasoning process and into this year as well. But I believe that the Reds organization thinks he's ready to go.
Down by Barrett. And it's 3-1. This was Kerry Wood taking one off the left foot, but again, he didn't limp, didn't look like he had any problem. And again, the Larry Rothschild and Ed Halber came out before that happened. (3-1) to Randa, and he takes it for ball 4. That changeup just missed. Second walk for Remlinger, who's thrown 30 pitches.
Just to carry our discussion about making the move to Glendon Rush. And now at this point, if you go to Glendon Rush, you really almost have to make a double switch. So rather than bring in Glendon Rush in this particular situation, you may choose to go to a reliever just to get you out of this inning.
Roll to Walker. He'll get it out at second. The relay to first is tardy. So fielder's choice for Dunn.
Very slow developing double play. Todd Walker really laid back and let that ball come to him, and then had to run several steps before making the backhanded toss on to Neifi Perez.
Well, Kerry Wood left with right shoulder stiffness. So hopefully it was just very minor and obviously precautionary. And the Cubs are going to take no chances whatsoever with Kerry Wood, who missed a couple of months with the right shoulder injury. But that is the word from the Cubs clubhouse: right shoulder stiffness. Jacob Cruz finds the alley out in left center. So Casey scores easily. And Adam Dunn trying to score. Going to be a play at the plate. Neifi's throw cut off by Derek Lee. Cruz caught in the pickle. Ramirez will tag him out, but those two runs both count. So after 5, the Reds lead 5-0. Don't pass up your opportunity to experience a Cubs game from one of the official rooftop partners across the street from Wrigley Field. For information, visit ballparkrooftops.com. Jacob Cruz with a 2-run double on Mike Remlinger. And it's now 5-0 Reds. And this half inning of Cubs baseball brought to you by Robert Morris College. Real college for the real world. And a real problem for the Cubs, who are down 5-0. Trying to get their offense going here tonight. Ronnie Cedeno will pinch it for Remlinger. Might see Ronnie in the starting lineup tomorrow afternoon. Dusty Baker hinted that he may give Neifi Perez a day off tomorrow, get him ready for that big 3-game series in St. Louis. And we'll have game 4 for you tomorrow. Bright and early, 11:30 Central Time here on Comcast Sportsnet. And it might be a special afternoon for Greg Maddux. He is 6 strikeouts away from 3,000. He'll face left-hander Eric Milton.
Day game figures to be hot and humid in this ballpark. Eric Milton on the mound for the Reds, who surrendered 29 home runs in 20 starts this year. And Maddux going for number 3,000. I think that's a ball game you don't want to miss.
Tap back to Harang. He hasn't had any trouble thus far with his Cubs lineup. A lineup that had scored 66 runs over the 9 games coming into tonight.
I think the biggest difference tonight, as opposed to the first 2 games of this series, is the fact that Harang has been strike one on most of the Cubs hitters. He hasn't been pitching in a lot of those 2-0, 3-1 holes that we saw in the first 2 games, really allowing the Cubs hitters to swing the bats aggressively in those good hitters counts. Go again, 0-1.
To Garrett, foul tipped for strike 2. Going inside. Sergio Mitre is up in the Cubs bullpen. Back in April, and of course the Reds with their home uniforms on tonight, but on their road jerseys they have Cincinnati across the front. Creel charges and gets it to Casey for the second out. Aaron Harang made a start at Busch Stadium, and the spelling of Cincinnati had C-N-C-I-N-N-A-T-I. Forgot the first I. Well, by the third inning, they had it figured out, and he put on a new jersey. I guess he had the jersey with the misspelling on it for like 4 days, but he had a jacket over it, so nobody knew. A couple of his teammates were looking at him like something's not right. Dunn going back and makes a catch. So Walker flies to deep left. Aaron Harang doing everything right thus far tonight. 2 hits, no runs through 6. 5-0. After the game, stick around for Cubs Postgame Live, presented by Joe's Crab Shack. Get highlights of all the action and analysis from Dan Plesac. Don't miss Cubs Postgame Live immediately following the game right here on Comcast Sportsnet. New pitcher for the Cubs, Sergio Mitre, taking over. Kerry Wood went 3 innings, left with right shoulder stiffness. Mike Remlinger with 2 innings, gave up 2 runs on 3 hits. And now it's Mitre to face Javier Valentin. Mitre winds and fires high and very deep. Let's see how far up it lands. Boy, that was crushed by Javier Valentin. Way up in the bleachers out there in right. And he hit it really high. If he had straightened it out a little bit, he might have hit it out of the ballpark. 6-0.
Have a purpose for every pitch you throw. Mitre coming into the game, a belt-high fastball right over the middle of the plate against a real aggressive first ball fastball hitter. That's a bad combination.
Ball bounced above the tunnel. Harang flailed at strike 3, and Barrett will throw to lead. Sergio Mitre looking for a baseball. Going around the horn saying, well, where's the ball? But they ended up throwing the ball into the dugout. Second base umpire Jim Wolf took a look at it and tossed it out of play.
Strike 3 hit in the dirt, and after Michael Barrett threw it down to Derek Lee, it got intercepted on its way around the horn and thrown out of the ball game. They had a scuff on it from hitting in the dirt.
439 feet on the Valentin home run. So he has 3 home runs his last 2 games. And will likely be in the lineup tomorrow. Jerry Naron said he wanted to match him up against Greg Maddux. Two outs in the inning. And another guy who's hit a home run tonight, Felipe Lopez. So the Reds back in the home run lead in the National League now with 125 for tonight. Cubs have tied a season high, allowing the 4 home runs tonight. playing the 2-0 just off the outside corner. And you think about tomorrow's starters, Greg Maddux has allowed 17 home runs this year. Eric Milton has yielded 29 already.
Seems funny to talk about home run leadership in the National League and not mention the Colorado Rockies. See tomorrow's probable starters. Rockies with only 85 home runs going into play tonight. Of course, that is a retooled, rebuilt Colorado Rockies team looking to play for the future. A lot of young guys getting an opportunity, and some of their veteran players that have been big-time home run producers in the past not having the kind of years that they have had in the past.
You see the standings in the National League West. And the Diamondbacks coming to Wrigley Field on the next homestand, in fact, after the San Francisco Giants. Giants for 3 starting Monday, and the Diamondbacks for 4 starting a week from tomorrow. And Milton leading the majors in home runs allowed. And you almost hate to do this. It's not fair to Bert Blyleven, who is a very good pitcher, but the one thing that always seems to come up is his name when a guy has given up a lot of home runs, because he holds a major league record. He allowed 50 in 1986. There are a lot of people who think Bert Blyleven should be in the Hall of Fame.
All I know is he threw a curveball that you could hear. With so much spin and rotation on that curveball, you could hear it cutting through the air as it came to the plate.
The National League record, Jose Lima allowed 48 in 2000.
Apparently it wasn't Lima time in 2000. What color his hair was. I think that's the key for Lima.
Wasn't it Robert Roberts who had the record for a long, long time before Lima broke it? I think the Blyleven record is one that that's going to be broken. It's just a matter of time. As ballparks seem to get smaller and smaller.
It'll probably be broken by a pretty good pitcher too. I mean, you have to be a good pitcher to stay in the rotation and give up 50 home runs a year.
Two to Casey, and we'll do it again. Next pitch, foul to the left. Robin Roberts allowed 46 home runs in 1956. And that National League record held up for a long, long time. Jamie Moyer, Eric Milton in the top 6 from last year. Moyer allowed 44, Milton 43. Another 2-2 right out front of the plate. Barrett picks it up, gets it to Lee. And the Reds done. Valentin with the leadoff home run, the 4th home run for the Reds tonight, and they lead 6-0.
Tomorrow, the series concludes in Cincinnati as the Cubs and Reds slug it out in an afternoon showdown, followed by Cubs postgame live. Cubs Reds tomorrow at 11:30. Get your game on Comcast Sportsnet.
Monday. Sunday, July 25th, 80s night at Wrigley Field. Deborah Gibson, brought to you by Comcast Sportsnet. She's going to perform the national anthem and the 7th inning stretch. 80s memorabilia will be given away throughout the game. Thanks again to Comcast Sportsnet. Brian Adams. Good stuff.
Cuts like a knife. Was that his big CD?
That will run to you, right? Yeah, cuts like a knife. 6-0 Reds. Very quiet Cubs offense tonight. Derek Lee making some noise. Let's see how far this one's going to go. Upper deck. Number 31. Great catch out there, and wow, did he get all of it.
Sometimes an outfielder will make a preliminary move, just make a pivot and take a look at the ball and then quit on it. Adam Dunn didn't even blink. That ball came off of Derek Lee's bat, and the only question was how far up was it going to go into the upper deck. Pulled Adam Dunn's hat off as it flew by.
Burnitz with a towering drive, deep left center, out of here, back to back. Cubs have gone back to back 3 times already in this series. 6-2. And another Cubs fan with the catch.
To make an announcement to have all the Cub fans move to fair territory in the outfield. Jeez, big time opposite field home run there. Well, that got the Cub fans up off their seats. Derek Lee with a high fastball, a Heineken home run replay into the upper deck. Catches that ball just out in front of home plate. Way up in the upper deck. Bernie goes the opposite way on a high breaking ball. That one stayed up above the belt as well. Harang has made very few mistakes up in the zone. When he's missed, he's usually missed low or off the corners, but a couple of pitches up over the heart of the plate there, and Derek and Jeremy made him pay.
And now a guy who's homered in 3 consecutive games, Ramirez. 6-2. Burnitz, by the way, is just 9 home runs away from 300 for his career. 291. Ramirez smokes one to the left. Boy, some great swings against Harang here in the 7th inning.
Now, we've talked about it in the first 2 games of this series, but in exactly the opposite scenario. The Cubs had the lead, and we kept saying you need to add on to that lead because in this ballpark you never know. Tonight the Cubs, the team that are trying to battle back from behind and putting a couple runs on the board here in the 7th inning, is going to get that bullpen moving around down there.
Hollingsworth breaks another bat. Randa to Creel, no relay throw. I mean, the 2 broken bats for Hollingsworth, he has made those bats look like balsa wood. They have just completely shattered.
Just a little bit off the trademark there, and that bat just explodes. It should be pointed out, I'm not sure what brand of bat that was, but when teams come in here to Cincinnati, it's not out of the ordinary to see Chuck Shupp, a representative from Louisville Slugger Bats down in Louisville, Kentucky, comes up here and takes bat orders, sometimes delivers bats to players.
Rafi Perez shoots it down the line. It's a fair ball. Hollingsworth got a great jump off first. He is going to be held at third. 2 men in scoring position for Michael Barrett. Boy, everything has changed here in this inning. The first 6 innings, the Cubs with 2 base runners. Just 2 hits and 1 was a bunt single. But back-to-back home runs and a single, a fielder's choice, and now a double by Napie. They have struck like lightning here, and well, the thing you love about it, they haven't given the Reds bullpen any time to get ready. Try to do some more damage here against Aaron Harang. The 0-1 to Barrett. Right center. Griffey with the catch. Hollingsworth tagging. Perez tagging. Todd scores the 3rd run. Deficit's been cut in half. Here in the 7th inning, sac fly for Michael Barrett.
Nice job of Michael Barrett just to stay up the middle of the field right there. Middle infield playing back. Any fly ball, medium depth outfield is going to score that run from third base. You just have to stay away from the corners in that particular situation. And Michael led with his hands just a little bit, dragging the barrel of the bat behind to make sure he hit that ball to the big part of the park.
Jose Macias, the pinch hitter, he's been bothered by a sprained left wrist. It was a play he went after out in right field Sunday and bent the wrist backward, but going up to pinch hit tonight. And come up with a 2-out RBI here. The Cubs are down 3. Todd Coffey and Brian Shackelford are getting ready. By the way, the Derek Lee home run at 427 feet. The Burnitz shot 385. A lot of long home runs tonight. Valentin hit one 439 feet. Griffey 412. To Macias. High bouncer foul. Inning over, but a productive one for the Cubs. Derek Lee and Jeremy Burnitz giving some Cubs fans some souvenirs. Lee led off the inning. Burnitz followed. Another run later, and it's now 6-3.
Guests on Comcast Sportsnet receive gift certificates to Harry Carey's restaurant. Harry Carey's, the official home plate of the Chicago Cubs. Visit www.harrycareys.com.
Lefty Glendon Rush coming on and trying to keep the Reds at 6. Scoring 3 runs to get back into it here tonight. And the top of this 7th inning. First pitch to Ken Griffey, swung on and missed for Rush, his 29th appearance, 19th out of the bullpen.
And needless to say, a big shutdown inning here for Glendon Rush. If he can get 3 quick outs and get his team back in that dugout swinging the bats, take advantage of that momentum that they got going there in the top half of the inning. He's going to Have to work his way through some pretty tough customers. Ken Griffey Jr., Joe Randa, and Adam Dunn.
Hollingsworth is there to make the catch. Griffey flies out. Joe Rando for 2 with a walk. Outside corner strike. Fastball at 89 from Rush. He's a reliever this year. Ended 2-0, the 4.98 earned run average. Back of first goes Lee. Not too much foul territory over there, and it's about 3 rows up. To right. Garrett with a catch. Now, Glendon went to the bullpen. He had 5 straight outings in which he allowed runs. The last 2 times out, no runs, just 1 hit combined in 2 1/3 innings against the Pirates over the weekend. And Monday night here in Cincinnati. In case you missed it earlier, Kerry Wood went just 3 innings tonight, left with right shoulder stiffness after 3. 3 runs, 4 hits allowed tonight. All 3 runs on home runs. Lopez, Dunn, and Griffey. Dropped down a little bit. An effective pitch against a left-hander. Backing up into shallow right. Perez shaded up the middle. 3-2 to Dunn. Maybe with a chance, just couldn't get to it. Dunn hit it too hard.
Depending on the severity of Kerry Wood's injury, and I'm sure the Cubs medical staff is checking on that right now. He's probably up in the training room getting some treatments from Mark O'Neill, the head trainer. And of course, I'm just speculating because we don't know how serious it is, but possibly arranging for the appropriate tests, an MRI, or perhaps have the Reds team doctor take a look at Kerry Wood. And in the event that it is a serious injury, there's probably been phone calls made already to the minor leagues to figure out whose day it is to pitch today and make the appropriate changes in the rotation down there that are necessary. Start thinking ahead. I mean, obviously your main focus is on this ball game and trying to find a way to come back and score 4 runs and win, but behind the scenes there's a lot of phone calls being made. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's a very minor thing and Kerry won't miss any time.
Pena pinch hitting for Jacob Cruz. Hollingsworth had no idea where it was. He finally found it. So Rush with a scoreless 7, 6-3 Reds. On Sunday, July 31st, the first 20,000 fans will receive a scratch and win card. 500 random winners will take home an MLB authenticated Derek Lee autographed Rawlings official baseball compliments of MBNA. Fans are encouraged to hold on to their cards for second chance drawings throughout the game. For complete rules, visit Cubs.com. Aaron Harang is still in because, for a couple of reasons, he's only thrown 81 pitches. But the Reds bullpen has really been taxed, so Jerry Narron needed a deep outing from Harang. He has gotten it thus far. The Cubs got to him for 3 runs in the 7th inning. Pena stays in to play right field, and also David Weathers strained his lower back last night, had to leave, so you'd assume he's unavailable tonight. So I think, though, it won't take much for the Reds to take Harang out if the Cubs get anything going against him here in this 8th inning. Jody Garrett 0 for 3 tonight, 0 for 4 as a Cub. And the 0-2 pitch is in the dirt. I mean, Bob, you have to figure if the bullpen were good to go tonight, Aaron Harang probably would have been done. It just looked like he lost a little something that 7th inning.
He was just getting pitches up, which he had not done through the first 6 innings. He just kept pounding the bottom of the strike zone early. There's another pitch up. Popped in the air to first base. Casey will make the play easily, but I think you're absolutely right. 10 1/3 innings out of the bullpen the first 2 games of this series. Jerry Narron probably went to his big horse and said, listen, I need at least 1 more inning out of you, big guy. Go get him. Pitch count is certainly very reasonable.
Well, Harang was able somewhat to limit the damage in that 7th inning. And still has a 3-run advantage. Todd Walker 0 for 3 and came in with a 12-game hitting streak. His career best hitting streak was in 2003. Hit 20 in a row with the Red Sox. To Walker, he pops it up. So with 2 outs, it'll be Derek Lee, who hit his major league leading 31st home run, leading off the 7th. His career high for an entire season is 32. Bouncer to Randa, so Harang able to settle down after that 3-run 7th. Sends him down 1-2-3 in the 8th. It's still 6-3.
Night update.
Hi there, Carrie Sayers with you. We'll get you back out to Cincinnati in just a minute, but here's a quick look of what we've got on tap for tonight after Cubs postgame live. Bears training camp is just a few days away, and today we caught up with new Bears receiver Muhsin Muhammad. Plus, the Sox try to take the series from the Tigers. That and more tonight after Cubs postgame live. Now let's get you back out to Len and Bob in Cincy. Guys?
Thanks a lot, Carrie. Bottom of the 8th, the Reds leading the Cubs 6-3. And it's Javier Valentin facing Glendon Rush. Aaron Harang has a bat near the on-deck circle. Again, a pitch count that's not very high at this point. 89 pitches, so he may have a chance to complete it. The Reds have already set a club record for games to start a season without a complete game from a starter. They've gone 94 games without a complete game. And right now the Reds and Devil Rays, the only clubs in the big leagues without a complete game performance.
I was speculating between innings that we were probably going to see Kent Merker in the 9th only because of his success against the leadoff man, Jeremy Burnitz. Burnitz 1 for 22 lifetime against Merker. Aramis Ramirez 0 for 2 lifetime with a strikeout. So just kind of thought that maybe he would go to one of his closer by committee guys down there to finish this one up. But the big hoss is going to take an at bat here, and you'd have to assume that means he's going to go out and take the ball to start the bottom of the ninth.
He has one career complete game. It was a shutout last year. Bunted by Harang. Rush with a bad throw. It gets into center. Would have been a close play at second either way. Sacrifice, the fielder's choice, is the scoring decision.
But Glennon just didn't have a good grip on that ball. Spikes it into the grass out there in front of second base. Jeremy Burnitz fortunately came streaking in on that play to back up any play at second base, and that's the only thing that held Valentin at second.
How about Harang? He has 3 sack bunts tonight. He had 1 all season coming in.
He's a machine.
In there on Friel, the complete game shutout for Harang was against the Cardinals on August 26th of last year.
There was obviously some miscommunication there for the Cubs defensively. Aramis Ramirez came charging in at third base, which you'll see a third baseman do on the wheel play. But on the wheel play, the shortstop is supposed to break to cover third. Nathan Perez was standing at second base. There was nobody covering third base.
Aramis goes back to third. Rush double clutched, and that cost him. So Friel reaches, and the bases are full of Reds with 0 outs.
Once again, it looked like Lennon just had trouble finding a good handle on that ball. Fields it cleanly, but then has to re-grip. Throws the ball in the dirt to Walker, who saves a couple of runs right there, picking that ball out of the dirt.
They're going to call it a hit for Ryan Friel. Felipe Lopez with the infield in. A walk, a sac bunt, the fielder's choice, and then a bunt single. Good numbers with the bases loaded. Felipe Lopez fouled off. His first career grand slam was off Ryan Dempster at Wrigley on April 27th. So that was as a lefty.
It's a big out right here. If you can retire Lopez and keep those runners where they are, it would give Dusty Baker the option of playing his infield back with Sean Casey coming to the plate. Casey's grounded into 23 double plays this year.
Driven to right center. Burnitz was playing deep. He makes a catch. He's going to throw toward third, and Harang is saved. Good play by Burnitz. He had a shot at the pitcher, lumbering toward third. Sac fly for Lopez, and it's 7-3. Runners at the corners with 1 out.
Burnitz's momentum carrying him over into right field. He had to take just a couple of extra steps to right himself. And it still makes it close over there at third. Ramirez had trouble coming up with the ball.
So Larry Rothschild out to chat with most of the infield. Will Oman watching the festivities in the Cubs bullpen. First and third. Friel, the runner at first. Harang, the pitcher, is at third. As a manager, do you like seeing your pitcher tag from second go to third on that play? I only ask because you like to get a guy to third with less than 2 outs. You have a pitcher who's already thrown 8 innings tonight. And he almost got thrown out.
Well, it is an unusual play. Generally, at this point in the ball game, your pitcher's going to be extremely cautious on the bases. You know, but for another player, I would call it a great read because, as we said, Burnitz is running hard over into right center field to make the play. Not the most picturesque of slides you will ever see over there at third base. We'll see if that takes anything out of him as he goes out to take the ball in the bottom half of the 9th inning.
There's usually kind of a tacit agreement that, you know, a pitcher can take it easy a little bit late in the game with the score the way it is, but Harang trying to help his team get another run. They're up 4. 2-0 on Sean Casey. Yeah, all of what happened, that's probably the worst part for Badgers, seeing the way he slid into third. Try not to break an ankle. Almost hit him. It is ball 4, and they're loaded again. Glendon Rush's night. Will Oman will be summoned to face Ken Griffey. Ford called to the pen time. They're loaded for the Reds in the 8th, and they lead 7-3. Last night in the 7th inning, Will Oman came on. They retired Ken Griffey on a ground out to end that inning. Bases loaded. Cubs in double play depth. And the pitch to Griffey. Going outside on a slider from Oman. 14 grand slams for Ken Griffey. Here's a pitch. Fastball off the plate. Oman needs this pitch. Here it is. Shallow center. Burnitz on the dead sprint. He will not get to it. And everybody moves up a base, including the pitcher, who can head into the dugout after scoring on the Flair single by Griffey. It's 8-3.
Well, the more ball games I see in this park, the more it reminds me of Coors Field. Jeremy Burnitz playing deep out there in center field, respecting Ken Griffey Jr.'s power, and then this little jam shot floater into shallow center. He just can't recover in time. Looked up quickly to see if he might be able to catch one of the base runners and turn it into a force play somewhere, but Reds runners all were able to advance.
Bases are still loaded with just one out. 2 more runs for the Reds here in this inning. Here comes Ullman. Bounce foul. Knocked down by Mark Barry, the third base coach.
Boy, this inning is just a perfect example of the old cliche of baseball. If a team's going to give you an out, take an out. Glendon Rush unable to retire the pitcher. Aaron Harang on his sacrifice bunt attempt. Ryan Friel's sacrifice bunt attempt did not result in an out, and it's opened the door for a big inning here for the Reds.
Cardinals leading Milwaukee 3-1 in the 6th inning in St. Louis. Brewers batting. Houston shut out Pittsburgh today 8-0. Astros have won 4 in a row. Randa went. So a strikeout for Ullman. 2 down.
The naked eye from up here looked like he went, but we're going to get the opportunity to see a couple of replays. Breaking ball down in the dirt, blocked nicely by Michael Barrett. And Randa certainly did get out there in front of home plate.
If the Cubs don't come from behind tonight, it'll be in a second-place tie with the Astros at 48 and 46.
Friel, the runner at third base for the Reds, with Adam Dunn at the plate. Aramis Ramirez is shaded way over in the hole between third and short, and Friel is coming way down that line on the pitch. Any ball that gets away from Michael Barrett at all, he'll probably attempt to score. And he holds his position on the throwback. If it happens to get away from Will Ullman on the mound, he may attempt to come down that line and score. Of course, you better not get thrown out with Adam Dunn at the plate.
2-1 on Dunn. So another note on that Astros win today, a 4-game sweep over the Pirates. 3-1. Tough spot here. Dunn doesn't expand the zone a whole lot. Pitch inside, forcing in another run. Give Dunn an RBI, his second tonight. It's the 3rd walk of this inning. And that run charge to Glendon Rush. So Ford called to the pen once again. It's now 9-3 Cincinnati. Michael Wirtz will try to get out of this inning with the bases still loaded. We'll be back. In case you're wondering, the moon is 99% full. It will be 100% full. We believe like 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Got it all covered for you.
You going to get up for that?
Maybe, because we have an early game tomorrow. Just thinking about the start time. 9th hitter of the inning. And Michael Wirtz faces Willie Mo Pena. 3 runs for the Reds. Their lead now 6 once again. Swing and a miss. Picked up by Pena. Foul ground. Barrett. He needed about another 5 or 6 feet. Well, we needed a place to put the camera. Two strikes.
You'd expect one more slider here from Michael Wirtz. Started on the outside part of the plate, break it out of the strike zone. Chose to go up high, out of the strike zone. Willie Pena, real good fastball hitter, especially in hitters counts. But behind 1 and 2 here, he's going to be a little more defensive. That's when you can get him chasing that breaking ball off the plate.
Kick in a 1-2 pitch. Did not offer it that slider. Pena went after it, and Wirtz gets out of the inning. Reds strand 3, but they score 3 runs. Get just a couple of hits, utilize 3 walks. It's 9-3 to the 9th. 9-3, 9th inning, last chance for the Cubs. Aaron Harang trying to pick up the Reds' first complete game of the year. The Feldco upcoming schedule again tomorrow morning, Central Time, 11:30. We're on the air here on Comcast Sportsnet. 3 against the Cardinals in St. Louis, and then a homestand starts Monday night. First time the Cubs will see the Giants here in 05.
A little brunch in baseball tomorrow.
Cubs need a bunch of runs here in the 9th inning. Outside on Burnitz. Our producer and director doing it all tonight here on Comcast Sportsnet. Bob Albrecht, Dave Turner on assignment. Associate producer Tamara Anderson. And the birthday girl up here in the booth, our stage manager Audrey Whitley. Happy birthday to Audrey. Spending the special night with us. Great work as always from our crew here in Cincinnati. 1-1 to Burnitz, outside 2-1. I also wanted to mention, and this is not a joke, but Ryan Dempster had his bicycle stolen in Chicago. The 2-1 to Burnitz, a strike 2-2, a blue and white Trek bicycle. So he wanted us to mention it. If you have any information as to where it might be, contact the Cubs.
Ryan rides that bicycle to the ballpark nearly every day.
And Burnitz with a base hit to right. That's a good start here in the 9th. Brings up Ramirez, who is 1 for 3. Seventh hit for the Cubs. Their big inning was the 7th, scored 3 times. Derek Lee with a home run that inning, now at 31, also 78 RBIs. Just looking at some of the other guys in the National League among the leaders, I believe Derek is in sole possession of the RBI lead at this moment. So currently, he's a leader all by himself in all 3 Triple Crown categories. We'll see how it plays out the rest of the night. Albert Pujols with a couple of RBIs. So he has 77. Carlos Lee without one to this point in that game in St. Louis.
Ramos Ramirez looking to extend his 3-game homer streak.
He came in tied for 5th in home runs, tied for 8th in RBIs, 9th in batting average. Reds try to turn 2, 5, 4, 3. 2 outs on 1 pitch. And now Harang smells it. He is 1 out away.
Typical around the horn double play. Hard hit ball right to third base. Friel's got plenty of time to make the pivot at second base and avoid the sliding Jeremy Burnitz. Miranda even takes a little extra time out there to make sure he makes a good throw.
There's Todd Hollingsworth. This should do it. Lopez over to Casey and Aaron Harang with the Reds' first complete game of the year. His 2nd career complete game, and he's now 2-0 in his career against the Cubs. Final score tonight: the Reds 9 and the Cubs 3. Well, the Cubs with a chance to take 3 of 4. They'll need a win tomorrow to do that. As Greg Maddux will take the hill. Our Hyundai player of the game is Aaron Harang. Again, the first complete game this year for the Cincinnati Reds.
And it came at a time when Jerry and Aaron and the Reds needed it the most. The bullpen had been worked ragged the first 2 games of this series. And the Big Hoss stepped up and finished it himself.
Gale and Carey are standing by their Comcast Sportsnet studios.
All right, thanks, guys. Gail Fisher and Carey Sayers here. Coming up tonight on Sports Night, a former Cub, Lee Smith, stops in to give his thoughts on this year's Cubs squad. And William Jackson goes one-on-one with Bears receiver Muhsin Muhammad to get his thoughts on this weekend's training camp. Also, Frank Maloney, the Cubs director of ticket operations, tells us about his unique background experience. It's all tonight after Cubs postgame live with Josh Mora and Dan Plesac. But for now, we'll send it back to Cincy and Len and Bob.
So that'll do it from Cincinnati for Bob Brenly and our entire crew. Len Kasper saying good night. The final score: the Reds 9, the Cubs 3. Our next Cubs telecast tomorrow morning, 11:30 for the airtime, as these 2 teams wrap up the 4-game series. Greg Maddux against the left-hander Eric Milton. Stay tuned for Joe's Crab Shack post-game live. You've been watching Cubs baseball on Comcast Sportsnet. To right, and his 3rd home run against Kerry Wood this year, his 5th career homer.
Hey everybody, welcome to Cubs Postgame Live, presented by Joe's Crab Shack. I'm Josh Mora, along with the Southpaw Dan Plesac. The box score will show that the Cubs lost to the Reds tonight 9-3, but that box score will not tell the story. The story is that Kerry Wood is hurt again. He lasted just 3 innings through 66 pitches, gave up 3 runs on 4 hits, all solo home runs. And Dan, right here, this is back in the 2nd inning, you knew he had a problem.
Well, anytime pitching for 18 years like I was able to do, I see the game from a different perspective. Watching a pitcher's body language, the amount of time they take between pitches, and that particular sequence right there kind of alarmed me, because he has been, for the most part, the last 4 or 5 starts, getting the ball, getting on the mound, making a pitch, getting the ball, making a pitch, and it seemed like he was taking a little bit more time in that inning, which is an uncommon at times when you're having a tough inning. But the pitch before that, before you saw him going through the gyrations with his arm, was a hanging breaking ball, and he threw quite a few of those tonight where he wasn't getting on top of the ball. A lot of his breaking balls were flat, particularly some to lefties that were supposed to be down and in, ended up and away. And that leads you to think at times that he was somewhat uncomfortable and in the shoulder area where he has had problems. And then in that sequence that we showed where you see him moving and adjusting his shoulder, to me that was a sign that maybe something was bothering him, that he was uncomfortable.
Right, what we did was we showed you those sort of in reverse order. Those were all from the second inning, and I'd like to ask our producer, Kevin, if he can maybe cue that up again so we can run through it one more time and illustrate to you with the video exactly what Dan was talking about how he was throwing spinners, what you called helicopters, Dan, and it's most obvious here in this pitch to Ryan Friedl.
Well, for the most part, Kerry's been able to locate his breaking ball down and away, and he threw a lot of breaking balls today where he was not able to get the ball down and away or down and in, as this sequence here, down and into a left-handed hitter. And most of the times when something is bothering you, when you're having a problem, whether it be shoulder or elbow, the first thing that goes is your accuracy, to be able to locate primarily your breaking pitches down and away. That is one of the tail signs that a pitcher is what they call in a groove or feeling good, is to make good quality strikeout pitch. That's getting a curveball down and away where your mechanics are good, your delivery is on target, you're following through with the pitch, and you're able to take that ball, if you're a right-handed pitcher, and locate the ball down and away to a right-handed hitter. If you can do that, pretty much your mechanics are okay, and you're able to locate your pitches. And he really struggled with that more than he has the last 3 or 4 starts tonight.
Let's take a look at the Feldkohl pitching facts from today's game about Kerry Wood and about Aaron Harang. And while we do that, I want to ask you another question about Kerry Wood. Because of your pitching experience, not only could you notice what was going on as he adjusted his shoulder there, obviously that's something you've experienced. Do you have any idea what, given Kerry's history of shoulder problems this season, what he might be feeling and how it might affect him tomorrow morning, how he might feel in his next start?
Well, I think with any pitcher, it is so important, and a lot of times fans at home don't understand, and a lot of times big league players always say that spring training is 2 or 3 weeks too long. After 5 or 6 appearances, they're ready to go. But this is why Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor, for the most part, had a very short spring training. And what they've tried to do to get these pitchers back is not rush them back, but you want them back on the mound as soon as you can get them. And it seems like they're playing catch-up, trying to get that shoulder, the inflammation to calm down, and then you throw simulated games. You try to minimize the work in between because you don't want a guy wasting all of his bullets on a minor league assignment or wasting his bullets or good pitches pitching in a simulated game. And so as an organization between the pitching coach, Larry Rothschild, and Dusty Baker, they're trying to mix and match. They know the importance of Wood and Pryor to this pitching staff, but then again, they're not going to be helping them pitching in AAA Des Moines, Iowa. So it's a fine line that you walk, but anytime you begin the season like Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood have done with the spring training that is not a full spring training, you're playing catch-up, and it's awful difficult. You know, these guys are going through a lot of things right now that most pitchers go through in late April and early May once you've gone through the rotation 5 or 6 times. Well, this is the 5 or 6th time for them, even though it's after the All-Star break. They've been shut down a couple of times, both of them, and it definitely does affect you.
You saw the 3 home runs, all solo shots off of Kerry Wood. Felipe Lopez in the first, Adam Dunn in the second, Ken Griffey Jr. in the third. Now, it isn't fair to say that Wood has had shoulder problems. This is the first year he's had that injury. He has had other problems in his elbow, with various muscles in his arms, and his biceps and his forearm as well. Is he ever going to be able to pitch a healthy full season again?
Oh, I don't think without a question that he's going to be able to do it. It's just this particular year in 2005, he's playing catch-up right now for the lost time in spring training, making a few starts, and then having to go back on the disabled list. It's very difficult. You get out of your routine. Most pitchers, when you report to spring training, you get on a throwing program in December and January. You gradually build your arm strength. You're working on location and mechanics. And then the first 2 or 3 games in spring training, you're not necessarily concerned with the results. You're concerned about getting a feel for your mechanics, a feel for your breaking ball, some pitch that you wanted to work on in the off season, holding runners, working on a slide step, tightening up your breaking ball. And so for a couple of games, you're trying to work on the shortcomings of your game. And then you start to get to the middle of spring training, and you're starting to focus in on trying to build up your pitch count, the strength in your legs, the strength in your shoulder and in your elbow. And then the last 2 or 3 starts of spring training, you try to approach those as if the season was going to start, so you can get yourself on some type of a roll. Unfortunately for Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood, they weren't able to do that, what a normal pitcher goes through in spring training, and what happens is they're trying to play catch-up. Mark Pryor has done a better job of that right now, but it's awful difficult, especially when you're talking about power-type pitchers. Kerry Wood is never going to be a Greg Maddux-type pitcher who's going to be a control pitcher, changing speed. His game is based on power, and unfortunately, to say that he'll never be healthy again, no, I think he will be healthy. It's just unfortunate right now they're trying to make up for lost time at a very valuable point in the season right now where they need these top 4 guys to go out there every 5 days.
Pryor with a wholly different kind of injury than Kerry Wood has suffered this year. Let me ask you again, and I'm going to completely put you on the spot, and I'm asking you only to speculate. Obviously, this latest injury for Kerry Wood happened just tonight. We haven't had the opportunity to speak with anybody within the Cubs organization. You haven't had the opportunity to speak with Kerry Wood either, Dan. But based on what you saw, on his body language, on his reaction to how he was struggling, how he was laboring in the first 3 innings, can you make any prediction about whether he's going to be able to shake this season, whether he's going to be able to make his next start or a start 2 turns in the rotation from now?
I mean, we have no medical reports to base anything on, but I do know this. I'm sure that Kerry is at a point right now where he's had to fight a lot of different demons to get back to pitch. When you're throwing on the side or you're throwing in simulated games, no matter, when you take 2 or 3 weeks off like he has had to do a couple of times this year, you're always in the back of your mind worrying about, is that the normal stiffness, the normal tightness that I feel in my shoulder or my elbow? And you're always on that brink of, right on that fine line of pushing it but not hurting it. And then I think what happens in a night like tonight, there's a lot of baseball season left, and I think when you're feeling uncomfortable, you start to have thoughts in the back of your mind, should I say something now and take the heat for maybe coming out of this game, but maybe it'll save me down the road, or being dumb about it and saying, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and pitch through this, which every pitcher has to do at times. You're going to pitch in pain, whether it's your shoulder or your elbow, and there are times that you have to go out there, bite the bullet, and take the ball. But I think what Kerry's thinking about, one, is you don't want to do anything stupid, one, to jeopardize your career and to go out and try to be a hero, and all of a sudden you may not only lose the rest of the 2005 season, but you may damage yourself long term.
Kerry Wood was very cautious in his last start. It was last Friday against the Pirates. The Cubs took him out after only 75 pitches. They had a 10-run lead at the time. They had just had a long inning at the plate in the bottom of the 6th in that game. And Dusty Baker said, you know, he was sitting around for a while. Let's not risk it. Let's continue to be cautious with him.
Which I thought was a terrific move. That game was out of hand, and there was really no reason to run Kerry Wood back out there in the 7th inning. The 6th inning was a long inning, probably a 15, 16-minute inning. And it's difficult as any pitcher, a starting pitcher or a relief pitcher, to go out there and you're working every 3 or 4 minutes. You sit down, and you'll hear pitchers say on occasion, you'd like to score a lot of runs, 4 or 5 runs quick, and then boom, go 3 up, 3 down, and get back out there.
9-3 is the final in this one. Kerry Wood victimized not only by the injury, but by 3 solo home runs, the last of which was our ExxonMobil game-changing moment of the game. It was Ken Griffey Jr., and this also illustrates that Kerry Wood wasn't right in this ballgame. Here on a 2-0 pitch, a perfect slider, and watch what he comes back with on 2-1.
You know, it's easy to sit and dissect when a situation is over a pitch sequence, but you have Ken Griffey Jr., who his bat has slowed down the last couple of years, primarily because of injuries. Kerry Wood threw a 2-0 slider down and in, and you could see by the swing that Ken Griffey Jr. was cheating to hit a fastball. That's the only way that you can swing at a ball that literally bounces on top of home plate. And so the natural thing sometimes as a pitcher is to say, boy, this guy is really cheating or trying to speed his bat up to get to that fastball, especially when you have a fastball like Kerry Wood does. And then he comes back and he throws a 2-1 fastball, probably a pitch in a count with a home run hitter that's looking, saying, hey, if I'm going to get a fastball here, I'm going to come out of my shoes and turn it loose, and that's what he did. And unfortunately, the location Michael Barrett was setting down and away to try to run the ball away from him. Unfortunately, the ball came on the inner third of the plate, and in the 2-1 count, an aggressive hitter like Ken Griffey is looking for a ball that he can mangle 2-1.
You know, and maybe this is a perfect way to sort of bring this segment to a close and encapsulate everything here. Ken Griffey Jr. is a guy who hasn't been healthy for the past 2 or 3 seasons, has not had a healthy season as a Cincinnati Red. People have given up on this guy. That home run that you just saw was the 522nd of his career. He passes Willie McCovey and Ted Williams on the all-time list, and it's also his 21st of the season. He now has 64 RBI on the season. So a guy can go through a series of injuries and come back, and obviously, Ken Griffey Jr. is older now. He may never be the threat to break the single-season home run record as I think we all thought he was going to do it rather than McGuire or Sammy or before Barry Bonds. But he can still be a very productive offensive ball player, and maybe we can hope for the same thing for Kerry Wood.
I mean, this is disappointing for a lot of Cub fans, and I'm sure for the Cub organization, because the initial thing is you're thinking, here we go again. This team has been through so many ups and downs. It's been one of those teeter-totter years where, you know, for a 5 or 6 game streak, it looks like the wheels are back on, and then getting Wood and Pryor, you know, back healthy again, and you think what could be with this rotation. And a guy like Kerry Wood, what he has done the previous 3 or 4 starts, he shows you flashes of what he could be. It's in there. Unfortunately, right now, he's going through a very difficult time. And as a pitcher, you're in a tough spot because, believe me, he knows the importance that he means to the Chicago Cub teams. It is a comforting feeling as a baseball team when you know that somebody like Mark Pryor or Kerry Wood or Carlos Zambrano are going out there to start that game, and you could throw Greg Maddux into that. Also, that when a game starts, there's a calm that, okay, let's get this guy a couple of runs early. If he settles in, if he brings his A game, he's got a chance to shut somebody out. And I think it affects the whole team. It affects the bullpen because guys sit there, and the last thing you're thinking about as the long guy, a setup guy, is, hey, how are we going to be able to fill 5 or 6 innings, especially after Kerry Wood? The previous 3 starts were so good where it looked like he could have gone much deeper in the game, and it kind of throws everybody into kind of one of those fire drills, like you don't expect it, and all of a sudden, you know, Mike Remlinger is in the game in the 4th inning. I can't tell you the last time he was in a game in the 4th inning, and then you get now into the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, and you're trying just to mix and match and get through this game instead of trying to set your bullpen up to try to win a game.
And we should qualify this entire segment of Cubs talk and Kerry Wood talk by saying we don't know how seriously he's hurt. All we know is Kerry Wood left the game after 3 innings and 66 pitches with stiffness in his right shoulder, and it may be something that he battles the rest of his career, where he is going to have an occasional start like this, and he might be ready to make his next start next week when the Cubs begin their homestand. But we're going to ask you a question because, Dan, you said it in your last comment that Kerry Wood knows his importance to this team. We want to ask you about his importance to the team. Do you think the Cubs can reach the postseason without Kerry Wood being healthy? You can go to ComcastSportsNet.com, click on Chicago, click on the Cubs page, and vote either A, yes, or B, no. Doesn't get much more simple than that. And it doesn't get much more simple than just staying where you are. We'll have the results later and more of Cubs Postgame Live after this. All right, let's take a trip through history here, courtesy of Joe's Crab Shack. It was on this date, July 20th, 1933, Babe Herman, not George Herman Babe Ruth, but Babe Herman, who hit 3 home runs, including a grand slam, to pace the Cubs in a 10-1 rout at Wrigley Field over the Philadelphia Phillies. And Dan, because you pitched for the Phillies, I know
I did not give up one of those 3 home runs. I know that was the next question.
Exactly.
No, I played for a long time, and I'm getting over there in years, but I did not give up one of those home runs.
It was the Phillies at the end of your career.
At the end of my career.
That's right. Well, the Cubs could still use you in the bullpen. Make no mistake, the Cubs are still rocky in that regard. Tonight, the Cubs got nothing out of their bullpen. Kerry Wood left in the 3rd. Mike Remlinger got out of trouble in the 4th, but in the 5th, it's Jacob Cruz who comes up with a 2-out double that scores 2 runs to extend a 3-0 lead to 5-0. Cruz would eventually get hung up here in a pickle. And then in the 6th, the first batter that Sergio Mitre faces is Javier Valentin, and he hits just an incredible moonshot on this anniversary of the moon landing, way into the right field bleachers. All of the Cubs pitchers, except Will Oman and Michael Wirtz, who just pitched a 1/3 of an inning each, end up giving up runs that go against them. And of the 6 Cubs pitchers who pitched in this ball game, only one of them has an ERA under 4. That's Will Oman. Dan, this continues to be a problem spot for the Cubs. They just don't know what they're going to get out of their bullpen guys game in and game out.
I think most teams in Major League Baseball, there are very few exceptions right now that are solid in the bullpen. On the other side of the town, the Chicago White Sox may be one of the few teams that have two dependable lefties in Neil Kotz and Damaso Marte, and right-handed strength with Hermanson and Polite. There are a lot of teams that are struggling in the bullpen area. Primarily, there are very few teams that can have what happened tonight, where a starter gets knocked out in the third or fourth inning, and then you're trying to suck out somehow 4 or 5 innings out of your bullpen. After a while, it begins to take its toll, and I think what you have to realize, this bullpen pitched often and early in the first month and a half to 2 months of the season. When Wood and Pryor were down, these guys were brought into a lot of games. If you can remember, going into the middle of May, Michael Wirtz was leading the National League in appearances, and that's an awful big task for a guy that I'm sure was not thought of when spring training broke that was going to be one of the main cogs in this bullpen. So I think they're a little tired. They'll probably get a second win here sometime soon, but I think could they use some help in the bullpen? I think there's no question, but it's going to be difficult to do because there are so many teams, not only in the National League, but in the American League, that are one going for a playoff spot to win the division, or the wild cards are so clumped up that you could talk about in the National League, there are 7 or 8 teams that have a realistic chance, and it's going to be very hard to acquire somebody that you can say, this is our go-to guy in the 7th or 8th inning, because a lot of teams, and most of the teams that are in that wild card hunt, are all looking for the same type of guy. And one thing you have to understand, as a team, when that's a need that you have, and there's a non-contending team that has something that people want, they're going to try to make you pay for that. If they know that you have a weakness, they're certainly not going to give you a guy that is a dependable 7 or 8 inning pitcher at this time of the year for nothing. You're going to have to give up something in return, and as an organization, the Cubs have to weigh, is the short-term game worth long-term? Are you going to give away a prospect that may come back to haunt you? If you go back in the early 80s, you know, one of the biggest trades that really helped the Atlanta Braves, you know, getting John Smoltz for Doyle Alexander, the Tigers and the Blue Jays making a big trade, and that's one trade that at that point the Detroit Tigers desperately needed to get some help in acquiring a pitcher like Doyle Alexander. In return, you give up somebody like a young John Smoltz, and you don't know how that's going to happen. You can go back. There are several trades in baseball. Larry Anderson for Jeff Bagwell is another one that sometimes when you're dealing with minor league players, especially at the AA level, they're 2 or 3 years down the road, and it's hard to project what a minor league player's value is.
Well, if you're the Cubs, or if you're any team out there, Dan, how do you know which relief guy to go for? Anderson was a guy who was the #1 setup man at the time for the Astros. He did help the Red Sox in that September run, but not towards winning a World Series. I think back to '98, the Cubs made a bold move. They traded John Garland to get Matt Karchner from the White Sox. Karchner had been very good in the American League. He came to the Cubs, and he couldn't get anybody out in those final 2 months of the season. So is there any way that a general manager can reliably find somebody who doesn't have a 12 or 15-year history as a solid setup guy or a solid long guy, because you're not going to get a closer at this time of the year, not likely, not one who has a good history, and be able to pinpoint and say, I know I want this guy because he has been consistently solid? Is there any way to predict it?
There are guys available. Then you run into another dilemma as an organization. If you make a trade, a lot of times you'll try to acquire somebody like, just say, for example, a Jose Mesa from the Pittsburgh Pirates, who is up close near the top of the National Leagues in saves, and let's say that is a guy you're looking for a righty to get the ball to Ryan Dempster. Well, what also comes into play, you acquire somebody like a Jose Mesa that comes to the Chicago Cubs, and he may be disappointed that he's now going to be the 7th or 8th inning pitcher and not the 9th inning pitcher, because he's been used to getting the ball handed to him in the 9th inning. And in some ways, the closing job is by far the most difficult as far as accepting a lot of responsibility in the bullpen. But on the other end, there are a lot of days that you don't have to get up and warm up. If you're losing by 4 or 5 runs, you're certainly not going to pitch. And if you're winning by 5 or 6 runs, most of the time the closer gets taken care of. There are a couple of guys on your pitching staff that you have to take care of. Those are your main starting pitchers you have to take care of, and your closer and your top setup men in the bullpen. You have to give them adequate rest and make sure that they are sharp and not abuse them. The middle relievers, the long relievers, those are the guys that tend to really have to carry the brunt of the load, and sometimes, as you say, take one for the team and be left out there to suck up an extra inning when, you know, you could use a day off, but you need to fill an inning. That doesn't happen a lot with closers or setup guys.
Well, regardless, tonight, Dusty Baker has to use 5 relievers to get the Cubs through this game. He looks awfully prescient right now for sending Ben Grieve down as opposed to Sergio Mitre down to Iowa when the Cubs brought Jody Garrett on board from the Cleveland Indians and added him to the roster. He, by the way, was 0 for 4 tonight and did not look good at all leading off, didn't hit the ball hard. This is a dilemma that the Cincinnati Reds can certainly identify with. Aaron Harang was the starter tonight. He goes the distance for Cincinnati. This is their first complete game of the year, and the key to his night is clearly at the bottom there, Dan. No walks, 1 strikeout.
He was throwing strike one for the most part. There's a fine line between, a lot of times pitching coaches or people in baseball will tell you the best pitch is strike one. That is true, but the best pitch, strike one, a quality strike. You just can't go out and throw balls down the middle of the plate and say, I'm going to get ahead, strike one. And another thing that he did, and a lot of times this goes unnoticed in baseball. A lot of times you'll hear pitching coaches or managers talk about pitchers going out there and being aggressive. And I think a lot of times people take that as to go out there and use your fastball. You can be aggressive with your changeup. You can be aggressive with your curveball. If you have a 3 or 4 run lead in the 7th inning and you want to go out and start a power hitter with a first pitch curveball, don't be afraid to throw it over for strike one. You can be aggressive with other pitches other than your fastball, and I think sometimes pitchers in general take that as from a pitching coach or from a manager or from people that work with the ball club, say, we want you to go out there and be more aggressive. That doesn't mean go out there and be stupid and throw nothing but fastballs. That means to go out and not be afraid of contact and throw the ball over the plate, quality pitches in the strike zone.
Well, Harang did that in 8 of the 9 innings in this ball game. He had 1 trouble spot. It was in the 7th when Derek Lee continued to be a monster as he hit yet another home run in Cincinnati. He led off the inning with the home run. He goes 1 for 4 on the night. He's still hitting .375, and here it is. And, oh, I mean, this was hit all the way to Dayton. He hit this ball so hard into the upper deck.
He's having one of those seasons, and it has gone from the beginning of the season at Bank One Ballpark in Arizona. He has yet to have a stretch where he's gone 3 or 4 games and looks just bad at the plate, like he's getting fooled, not seeing the ball very well. When he's had one of those 0 for 4s or 0 for 5s, he's come back the next day. And I think the thing that makes him so dangerous right now, not only is he handling that ball on the inner half of the plate, which used to be what in baseball circles was his weakness, but if pitchers continue to pitch him on the outer half of the plate, up or down, he absolutely crushes those balls. And I think especially now, is he going to hit a boatload of more home runs? I think he will as the weather starts to heat up. The ball, especially in the Midwest and the East Coast, when you get the humidity, and it's not out of the possibility that he could hit 45 to 50 home runs, especially the way he's swinging the bat right now.
Well, that's number 31, so 45 is very much within reach. And he had 1 for 4 tonight again. The guy goes 1 for 4, and his average drops to .375. I mean, you know, if he's going to get up to 400, which is just an impossible goal at this point. I mean, not really impossible, but it would seem impossible because nobody's done it since Ted Williams. But you know, he's going to have some big 3 for 4, 4 for 4, 4 for 5 kind of nights. You know, a couple of them in a week. That's going to be a very tall task for him.
It's very difficult, especially to have the average that he has right now with the damage that he's done. Very rarely do you see power hitters, guys that are going to be 30 home run plus type guys that are going to drive in 100 runs. You have to give up something to get something. And most of the time, if you're a home run hitter and you're going to hit 35 to 40 home runs, you're going to have to take some pretty healthy swings. And when you get pitches 2-0, 2-1, you're realizing, like, I'm going to get a ball to hit here, and I'm going to come out of my shoes, and I'm going to try to really knock this ball. And sometimes when you do that, you pop balls up, you hit balls on the ground. And to do what he's done right now, this is one of those dream seasons, a career-type year, and he is showing no signs right now of slowing down.
6 home runs in this ball game, 4 by the Reds. The Cubs went back-to-back for the 3rd game in this series because Jeremy Brunitz did it, 3rd time in this series, I should say. Jeremy Brunitz followed Lee with his 16th home run of the season. But 4 by the Reds, and as we go to break, we want to show you all of the home run hitters so far in the major leagues tonight for all of you fantasy leaguers. Several of them this afternoon, as you see Aubrey Huff, Eddie Perez, Johnny Damon, and so on, including Tadeguchi of the White Sox. You'll see the rest on a roll. We'll be back with more of Cubs Post Game Live after this. right, here are your Coors Light Cold Hard Facts. The pitching matchup for tomorrow: Greg Maddux for the Cubs, Eric Milton for the Reds. Both of these guys give up home runs in a home run hitter's ballpark in the afternoon. Actually, it'll be the morning here when it starts. Greg Maddux, his last time out against the Pirates on Saturday the 16th, he went 8, gave up only 2 earned runs, 5 hits, had 6 strikeouts. The Cubs lost that game, but Dan, he looked pretty good.
He's unfortunately for Greg, he's been stuck a few times where he's thrown a lot better than his box score shows, or he just happens to pitch on the wrong day. A lot of times you'll hear this from starting pitchers, you know, when are you pitching? You hope it's on the right day when you score some runs. He pitched well enough to win his last start against the Pirates. Unfortunately, he ran into a good young pitcher, Duke, who shut him down. He shut the Cubs offense down, and the Cubs have been rolling just like they were tonight. And I think at times you have to tip your hat. Aaron Harang tonight, you know, it was the first complete game of Cincinnati Red pitcher all year, but he threw pretty well. He was keeping the ball down, moving it in and out, was able to throw his breaking ball for strikes, and he was aggressive in the strike zone and pitched well with the lead. When you have a lead like he did, he was going out there throwing strikes, using his defense behind him.
On the other side of the field, you'll have Eric Milton going for the Reds. And Dan, this guy baffles me. He was one of the best prospects of his year, had a lot of major league success with the Twins. Phillies got him. I thought that was a great signing for them. I thought he would really be a strong addition to their rotation. And since he's come to the National League, he hasn't been able to get anybody out. He's got the highest home run allowed total in the league right now, in baseball right now, with 29. What has happened to Eric Milton?
I think it's a simple fact of I think there are certain courses for certain horses, and he is a fly ball pitcher. And playing at Citizens Bank Ballpark in Philadelphia, which allowed the second most home runs in Major League Baseball last year, then he goes into another bandbox in Cincinnati. It's a very difficult place when you're a fly ball strikeout type pitcher and you're going to give up a lot of fly balls. Cincinnati and Philadelphia are the two of the 3 places that you don't want to pitch. Coors Field, obviously, I don't think anybody, if I would have been traded to the Colorado Rockies, I would have pretty much thought, I'm going home, because that is a nightmarish place to pitch.
Yeah, on the other hand, you would have hit plenty of home runs in batting practice.
No, I wouldn't have.
Yes, you would have. Even you would have hit them in at Coors Field. Instead, we're going to go back out to this ballpark, Great American Ballpark. Len Casper and Bob Brenly offer their thoughts on the game.
Well, the Reds getting their first win in this series, 9-3 the final. And, of course, the concern is about Kerry Wood. He left with right shoulder stiffness after just 3 innings. Hopefully just precautionary and nothing else, but always a concern. And, of course, Kerry Wood missed 2 months with right shoulder strain earlier in the season.
Well, obviously, it's a big-time concern because of the problems he had earlier this season. But, you know, it should be remembered that he's just working his way back into pitching shape. It's been remarkable what he's been able to accomplish up to this point, given the amount of time he was out. So hopefully something very minor.
And, Bob, looking at this ball game tonight, the Reds really needed a complete game performance. They got their first one from Aaron Harang. He had 1 bad inning. The Cubs scored 3 runs in the 7th. That was all the offense they could muster tonight.
Well, you know, we said it at the top of the show that Harang had been their best and most consistent starter this season, and he went out and proved it tonight. I mean, he really made very few mistakes in the ball game until the 7th inning. He elevated some balls, gave up a couple of home runs that looked like he may have been tiring out there on the mound, but got his second win, was able to complete the game, and I'm sure Jerry Narron, Vern Rule, and the rest of those Reds are very happy for that.
And a big one for the Cubs tomorrow. They'll need a win to win this series. They lead 2-1 going into Game 4 tomorrow, and Greg Maddux 6 strikeouts away from 3,000. Should be a fun afternoon.
Should be a fun afternoon. Eric Milton, the guy that gives up a lot of home runs, a day game here at this ballpark. The ball should be flying out of here, and with Maddux a chance to make history, definitely a game you don't want to miss.
And if you have an early lunch, make sure you tune us in 11:30 Central Time, and we'll be on the air from Cincinnati. Greg Maddux against Eric Milton.
All right, Len, Bob, thank you very much. And it should be, again, if we're just going to put a cot here for you, we'll order room service for you from the Holiday Inn.
It's going to be an early one. Yeah, early riser tomorrow.
Absolutely. 11:35, the first pitch. Let's wrap up this one by checking out our poll results. We asked you if you think the Cubs can make the postseason without Kerry Wood being healthy, and you voted and you told us no. Pretty close. 56% of you saying no, about 44% saying yes. And I'll pose the question to you. Can the Cubs make the playoffs if Kerry Wood is not healthy?
I think it's going to be very difficult. I said this last week. I think it is so important for this team to have Wood, Pryor, Zambrano, and Maddux not miss any more starts the rest of the season, because unfortunately they played so poorly in April and May and lost so many tough games that they should have won, that they can ill afford to have a 10-game stretch where they go 3-7 again, because the chances of Philadelphia, Washington, and Atlanta all having a 3 and 7 at the same time isn't very good. They need to start having some 6 and 4s.
Again, 11:35 is the first pitch tomorrow. Greg Maddux looking to make history against Eric Milton and the Reds. For Dan Plesac and our whole crew, I'm Josh Mora. Sports Night coming up at 10 o'clock. For the rest of us, we'll see you later.
With the Reds' first complete game of the year.
Hi, I'm Dustin Hermanson with the Chicago White Sox. You're watching Comcast Sportsnet.
Next up on Jim Beam Sports Night, no one's been able to tame the Sox except the Tigers. Another wild one on the south side with an even wilder ninth. Everyone in the NL needs to care about Kerry Wood and the Cubs, while Junior and crew would just like a win. Highlights from Cincy. And we go one-on-one with Muhsin Muhammad, who makes it clear that the time for the Bears is now, and you better get ready.
Pretty soon Sunday, we're going to be running right into your living room.
Go on, have a good time, because Sports Night is now.
Hello and welcome to Jim Beam Sports Night. I'm Gail Fisher alongside Carrie Sayers. Jeremy Roenick speaks out again on the NHL collective bargaining agreement. Oh boy. And we go meet the man behind the Cubs ticket operation.
But we begin tonight on the south side. The rubber match between the Sox and Tigers. Freddie Garcia towing the rubber, and his daytime numbers absolutely dazzling. 13-1 in his last 18 day starts. And Freddie also looking for his career best 7th straight win, but in trouble early this afternoon. Top of the first, Chris Shelton likes what he has to offer. That's a 2-run shot to left, and it gets the Tigers on the board first. Bottom of the inning, though, the Sox come right back. Tadahito Iguchi wins this battle with Nate Robertson. That's not coming back. Tad's 7th of the season cuts Detroit's lead in half. Bottom of the 4th. The rains come, delaying the game for an hour and 11 minutes, but no problem, we got some entertainment. Here comes Mark Burley with his regular rain delay routine. He and Willie Harris go slip sliding away. Then game on, top of the 5th. A man on first for Carlos Guillen. That's a base knock into center. Brandon Inge heads to third. Aaron Rowan plunks him. Goes into foul territory, and that means Inge is going to cross home. Detroit now takes a 3-1 lead. Top of the 6th, Tigers up 1 with the man on third, and Garcia uncorks a wild one. Ivan Rodriguez scores easily, and Detroit goes up 4-2. Bottom of the 7th, Chris Widger at the dish with 2 outs, and he goes oppo off Nate Robertson for the solo blast, and the Sox now down just 1. Top of the 9th, Garcia still in the game. But perhaps Ozzie left him in a bit too long. Omar Infante unloads for his 2nd dinger in as many days. Detroit goes up 6-3. Later in the inning, Dimitri Young facing Neil Kotz with the bags jammed, and Young delivers right back up the gut. Guillen and Shelton both score. The Tigers score 4 in the 9th and take a 5-run lead. But it's not over yet, folks. We've learned this from the Sox in the past. Bottom 9, 1 run already in. Juan Uribe is seeing eye single to center off former Cub Cal Farnsworth. Carl Everett and Widger both scored, and now the Sox down just 2. Then after a Joe Creedy single, tying runs on the bases, but Craig Dingman comes in to get Tad Iguchi to ground back to the hill for the final out. Tigers escape with an 8-6 win, so the Tigers bring Garcia's 6-game winning streak to a crashing halt this afternoon. They get their first series win over the Sox this season. The offense struggled again today, managing just 6 hits. Tigers had no problem in that category with 8 runs on 15 hits overall today. Maglio Ordonez fared well in his first series back in Chi-Town, going 7 for 10 with 3 walks. Freddie with a non-typical day outing, allowing 6 runs and 12 hits and 8+. But as Chuck Garfien tells us, Chris Widger took his fair share of the blame for that 9th inning implosion.
Unfortunately for Freddie, he pitched pretty well today, and you know, it came down to that home run in the 9th inning, which I told Freddie on the bench that I just called the wrong pitch. I called a change up on the home run, and as soon as I called it, I didn't have a good feeling about it, and he pitched too good to have give up 2 more runs like that.
I asked him about how he was feeling. When he went to the 8th, he only threw 5 pitches. He only went to 105. We talked to him. He said he feel fine. He was a little upset about he hung a pitch to Infante and hit the home run. But the only reason Freddie was there because he told me and told Coop, he feel fine, ready to go. He only got 105 pitches. He won't be back in the mound.
You're going to hit a bump in the road every once in a while, and you know, we hit it early, and now we're hitting it again. So hopefully we show what kind of team we are and bounce back and put a winning streak together.
There was a 71-minute rain delay, which for Mark Burley and Willie Harris meant sliding practice on the infield tarp. It was entertaining for the fans, but what does Ozzie Guillen think about his next scheduled pitcher going head first like a 10-year-old on a slip and slide?
I'm not a babysitter. I'm not. If Mark Burley can be there, we find somebody out. I know we're not going to find another Mark Burley, but you know what he's doing is a grown man. When he was doing that, I even seen it once again. When I see him there, he's just kid, he's have fun, and hopefully he don't get hurt. That's all you can hope.
But back to Garcia, who's been struggling at, of all places, at home. He's now 5-9 in his last 22 home games. But a good thing for him, his next start on the road, where he's 14-2 since last June. At U.S. Cellular Field, Chuck Arfine, Comcast Sportsnet.
Chuck, thank you. Well, don't forget, we're bringing you White Sox baseball tomorrow in the Battle of the Sox. The World Series champion Red Sox in town. First pitch on the south side set for 7:05 right here on your home for White Sox baseball.
Ask any baseball fan, manager, or pundit about the Cubs' postseason chances this year, and they'll all say it rests on the health of Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood. Well, Wood left tonight's contest in Cincinnati with a stiff shoulder. The question remains, is this setback for Wood now a setback for the Cubs, who need every W they can get to stay in it? And they have been racking up the wins lately, going for their 4th straight win tonight. We'll start in the bottom of the first, second batter of the game. Felipe Lopez takes the 3-2 pitch deep to right, and it is gone. A solo home run. Reds up 1-0. No big deal, except in the next inning, Adam Dunn follows suit. Another solo shot off of Wood. 2-0 Reds. Now it's Ken Griffey Jr.'s turn. A solo shot to right. Wood gives up 3 home runs in 3 innings, and it's suddenly 3-0, and that's it for Wood, who leaves with that stiff shoulder. Mike Remlinger comes in the 4th inning to relieve him. Bottom of the 5th, runners on the corners. Jacob Cruz drives one into the gap in left center. Sean Casey will come on in and score. Adam Dunn comes around. The throw at the plate. Oh, he beats it easily. Now Cruz gets caught in a pickle, though, so he's out. That will end the inning. Reds up 5-0. Top of the 7th, Cubs looking to mount a comeback. Derek Lee, of course, his 31st home run of the season. And the Cubs are on the board at 6-1. Next pitch, Jeremy Burnitz going deep to left. And that one will go all the way. Cubs with back-to-back home runs for the 3rd time this series. And the Cubs would add another. They still trail it, though, 6-3. Bottom of the 8th, bases loaded. Reds up. It's 7-3 when Will Omen faces Griffey Jr. The bloop single. Aaron Harang will score. So the Reds are up 8-3. 2 batters later now. Omen walks Adam Dunn. That will walk in a run. So a rough night for Dusty in the bullpen. 6 earned runs in 5 innings of relief. Bottom of the 9th, Harang going for the complete game. Gets Todd Hollinsworth to ground out, and that will end the game. Cubs fall hard 9-3, the final in Cincy. So Harang pitches a complete game and moves to 2-0 lifetime against the Cubs. It's the first complete game for Cincinnati this season, ending a 94-game drought. Now, Wood leaves after 3 innings of work, just 66 pitches with that stiff shoulder. We will keep you posted on his status. And the Cubs, who lost for just the 2nd time in 10 games, can only hope it's not serious. And we have Cubs baseball for you right here as the Cubs wrap up their series in Cincy. First pitch set for 11:30 in the morning, an early one, as Greg Maddux looks for his 9th win of the season against Eric Milton of the Reds.
The NBA and its players' union avoided the NHL's recent fate by announcing during the NBA Finals a new 6-year collective bargaining agreement. But because the new CBA has not yet been finalized, the free agent signing period will not begin on Friday as scheduled and will be extended into next week. Several teams have been positioning to make free agent signings and trades, but they've been on hold due to that moratorium. And now that Trustmark, the NBA's insurance carrier, says they will not be insuring Eddie Curry's heart next season, it appears the Bulls big man may have to play for the Bulls qualifying offer of $5.14 million this upcoming season. And then if he gets through the season without any heart problems, may then get the long-term deal he's been looking for. And the Pistons wasted no time replacing Larry Brown. They reportedly reached an agreement with former Timberwolves coach Flip Saunders to become the new head man. The hiring was confirmed by an Eastern Conference official who spoke on condition of anonymity because the team plans to announce the deal at a news conference tomorrow.
That was fast. Think they had that one planned?
Maybe just slight.
I think it was in the works for a while. Still to come on the show, the Bears are gearing up for training camp this week. And before they head out, our William Jackson had a chance to chat with one of the newest wide receivers, Musa Muhammad. We'll have his thoughts on joining his new teammates.
Plus, Jeremy Roenick adds his 2 cents on the new collective bargaining agreement in the NHL, and I hope he kept it clean this time, Gail.
We'll see, and we take a trip around the bases and get an update on the AL Central and NL wildcard standings. It's all next on Sports Night.